sunset, and we're sitting there skinning this deer like in the middle of this river bottom and stuff, and it's
It was amazing.
That's badass.
It was one of the funnest hunts I've ever been.
Thought we were gonna have to drink our urine on the way out because we ran out of water and we were pretty dehydrated.
I wouldn't advise it.
I mean, if it's each other's, it's not that bad, right?
Yeah. Should we drink our own or each other's?
You go. I'd be like, you go first.
Drink yours or your buddies.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Heck yeah, man. Dude, we put a lot of food in the ground every year, seemingly more and more, and we have a ton of fun with it during the off season. There's some struggles that come with it too, though, right? Obviously, the back of my truck is evidence, right now. It's a couple weeks after I jackknifed, a 4,800-pound material spreader, as I was coming down, and it was too much weight for my truck there. But, all those struggles aside, Deer Grow really has been a staple for our food plotting process for several years now. Yes, we like to put lime and fertilizer on the plots, if we can, but there are some that it's just we're not able to get to them, or it's not feasible for us to get out of state with that stuff. And so Deer Grow is kind of the quick and easy, but still super effective option for us to be able to get the most out of those food plots that we can every year.
Yeah, and I mean, we're guilty of overanalyzing things just like everyone else, but that's the best part about Deer Grow is that it's going to create healthier soils, which in turn makes better food plots. And the fact is we can simply spray plot start or plot till when we put the seed in the ground, and then when that plant starts to grow, we hit it with boost. And we know that we walk away, when we come back, it's going to be a great looking food plot. For anybody that's looking to try Deer Grow, if you use the code HUNTR15, that's HUNTR15 at checkout for deergrow.com, you're going to save 15% on any of your Deer Grow products. It's a great way to get started on this and just see what the results are for yourself.
Better food plots, bigger deer.
And we're back.
Hey,
HUNTR Podcast, episode 168. Nick, you're back.
I'm back.
I'm back, baby.
Boys, you're back in town. We got Rendell in studio with
Rendell
us.
Erik in
Yeah.
studio.
Awesome.
He fit in the studio.
Yeah, good. Barely.
It's awesome. Yeah, I expected him to have to duck in under the doorway or something, but yeah, you made it.
Ninja skills.
Yeah, came all the way from Western Iowa,
Yeah, 18-hour drive.
all for us.
We got to wake him up a bit.
That's
He drove
right.
almost through the night last night.
He's got
Crashed for
coffee, he's got rain, and potentially bourbon on the deck. So I mean, we're gonna figure out
kept
some way
eyeing
to
that
pump it up.
bourbon out. I was like, oh, bring your glasses out. Well, a little splash
We'll
on
pump
that.
it up. Yeah,
Hey.
go ahead.
Hey, thank you guys for listening. Whether you're on Instagram, no,
You could be
Yeah.
Spotify, YouTube, all the stuff, wherever you're listening
Apple
to us.
Podcasts.
We appreciate you listening. Thanks for being here.
Yep. We pay attention in the comments. We try to do our best to keep up with them. Bear with us. But we're kind of slowing down now. It is, holy shit, it's February 1st.
It is.
Tomorrow's Groundhog's Day.
Whoa.
It's a big deal in Pennsylvania,
It is.
Rendell.
Feels like we're getting to
Oh,
about
yeah.
that time, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, that
Punksy
Groundhog
Phil,
deal.
man.
Yeah.
It's a great movie, Bill Murray.
Is he going to see
Yeah.
his shadow or
We'll
not?
start with just a splash. We'll see how it feels.
Just the tip.
See how it feels.
Full shaft, baby.
You want a little or?
Huh?
You want a little or?
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah.
I gotta see how I feel, but we'll give you the fling cup here, a little flinner.
Yeah, I'll take it. So it's February 1st. Man, Jared and I, was it yesterday we were talking? It's February may be the worst deer month of the year.
Yeah, I would agree with that probably.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, January seasons wrap up.
It's a tough month, just
Yeah,
period.
January seasons wrap up. So you still have some hope. And
Honestly, I'm encouraged that we're through February, through January. We did
Yeah.
that.
yeah,
Here
but
we are.
February's the worst, right? I mean, that's the drag. March,
yeah.
at least, we're thinking next year, maybe frost eating, sheds. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things in March that feel good. February kind of could be, especially if they're not dropping. If they're not dropping antlers in February, it's slow.
Honestly, I thought about, I saw a little bag of clover there in the garage the other day. I thought about it. I was like, should I throw that in yet? Are we a little too early? Or it's going to depend what the rest of this month looks like weather-wise.
It's warm right now.
Right now it is. Are we going to get pounded with more winter, though? or-
Probably.
Yeah, probably. It's
Yeah.
inevitable.
Yep.
Inevitable.
Yeah, I can't even talk.
It's editable. Is that edible?
Inevitable.
Yeah.
Man.
No, we don't have any
Good
edibles,
Lord.
Rendell.
It's all this caffeine.
Yeah. Gotta balance it out with the bourbon. Bring it back down a notch.
I'm just a hillbilly. I can't talk anyways.
But yeah, so it's, February is that time frame where it's like,
We got postseason scouting.
Yeah.
I do a ton of that.
which I love. It's bare bone woods at this point. There are plenty of sheds on the ground. I mean, you found some already.
Yeah, I mean, in Ohio, that's the only one that I've seen. There's a handful that are starting to, 2 and 3 year olds and stuff, but I'm
Starting to see half racks.
I'll put it this way. I could go this Saturday, and I'm not going to. I'm going to hold off till I get back from vacation just because
Agree.
a lot are still holding.
Yeah, Iowa's kind of a mixed bag. Most are holding, but some are dropping one side right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, especially.
You saw that one I found the other day?
Oh, yeah, that was dope.
Well, that's when you can, if they're coming in like consistently in Ohio, you throw a corn pile out there, they are. It's a great tool for shed hunting. So there he is, and the next day he comes in, I'm like, that's him. I went out and found it the next day.
Yeah. Got a lot of mass on that.
Yeah, it was a stud. It was a
sweet.
70-inch shed.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, well, you talk about Iowa, especially on public, like the last thing you want to do is push in and blow out an area when they're still holding.
Yeah, for sure.
That we used to talk about that in Kansas all the time. When we'd have a scheduled time frame, we tried to push it later and later every year because it was like, man, so many of these keep holding, and if we blow through an area, like there they go, they're running with them on their head still.
Yeah, the hard part is I do a lot of the public stuff, so guys are
They're going to be in there regardless. Yeah,
it's almost like hunting the rut. Guys from all over the country come and they shed hunt and they blow all the deer off the public, so it can be tough to find it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and you got to get a little honey hole, something with food, or get some.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just knock on the door and just ask for one day just to walk around and look for sheds.
That seems like that would be pretty. Most people would be pretty good with that.
Yeah, they let you in pretty easy because you're not hunting, you're just walking around. And some guys are kind of leery about it, but
yeah,
like what the heck are you doing, just walking around looking for a shed? But
yeah,
most guys know, so that's a good key because a lot of those deer get pushed off the public early. So it's kind of like hit or miss. Like I don't find that many when I'm out postseason scouting just because of that.
Are you trying to, when you do those door knocks, are you trying to position those closer to some of the public pieces you're hunting so you can maybe?
Yeah, I try to look for like the best food area that's around that block of public.
It's night and day. Like on some of our farms and stuff. It's years where we were slacking or just didn't get that grain food source in for January, February timeframe. It's like you might as well not even walk. Like I'll run cameras during that time still, and it's like it's desolate. There's nothing there. But this year, like on our home farm, I got a 10-acre bean field, and it's like I'm blown away. It's not. It ain't Iowa, right? But I got a bunch of 4-year-olds like hanging tight there. 1 or 2 5-year-olds and stuff. I'm like, man, I'm pretty optimistic when those start to drop, we'll be able to walk out and pick up a bunch of them.
Like if you really, I try to focus on bedding areas too, like the south-facing slopes and stuff like that.
Yep.
So you can pick them up or transition zones. Honey locust pod groves and stuff are good, like the secondary food sources.
Yep.
That linger late season, you can find a pile in there. But usually they concentrate up. So if you find one, you usually find a bunch. And then if you're not finding them, you're just in no man's land.
Yeah,
agree. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of all or nothing.
I think those Amish found that match set in Ohio in a bedding area the other day. They were starting to go in and cut up in a new area, and it's thick. So I would assume that's where they found them.
It's a lot harder in those big timber areas. It's just, man, there's so much ground to cover, and it's like what. Unless you know what they're coming to, it's
a needle in a haystack.
It's really not rocket science. I mean, shed hunting is. It's just looking, right? And it's just kind of knowing where are they going to be that time of year.
Yep.
And
I pretty much only shed hunt big woods unless we go out to like Kansas or Iowa or whatever. And so I don't, if I find 2 or 3 sheds a year, I'm lucky.
Yeah.
And I'll put on a lot of miles. It's just.
You want to come shed hunt our place this year?
Yeah, probably. It'd be easy.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just food.
Yeah.
Food.
Yeah. I've got one on the ground in Kentucky I'm going to pick up. It's still laying in the picture.
Yeah, it's a nice shed, too.
He knocked it off in December. I watched him pop it, and it's laying in the trail camera picture. And they found those ones in Ohio. I've seen a few half racks.
Actually, I did find 2, yeah. I went out to find the big one. I found another one. 2-year-old.
So, I mean, they're there. It's definitely starting to get to be that time. But, yeah, I mean, if you don't have food, it's tough. I mean, it's tough to see bucks in general right now if you don't have food.
Yeah.
To see what even made it through the year.
Yeah.
Well, Iowa had a massive acorn drop this year, too, so I think the sheds are going to be more spread out this year because they didn't really have to go to ag as much.
Yeah. In fact, that was something I was surprised. I was up in the mountain Saturday or Sunday. There's a lot of big red oak acorns still on the ground that look like not rotted out, not putting on sprout yet. So, I mean, they're in that stuff. Different in farm country, though.
I do like this time of year. It's almost like the deer just seem like, I mean, easy is not the word, but it's like they're neither is vulnerable, but it's like, dude, they're pretty easy to figure out right now. Like if you were to go out, if you have access to like, anything, right, that's got a food source on it, especially, it's like, it's not, it's not really that hard. You can go out and you're like, clearly, they're coming from right here. I mean, especially where I'm at in the family farm there, it's like, they can only be so many places and there's only so many food sources. It's like, boy, it almost makes you feel like, I mean, truthfully, it's like a lot of times my goal is to kill a 4-year-old buck, right? And I'm kind of evolving. I mean, that's, that's a whole nother discussion, but it's like, truthfully, right now, if I wanted to kill a 4-year-old in Ohio, like it could be done pretty easily. I could go out probably tonight and do it. I think. I feel that confident.
Yeah. They're just so tied to food right now. I mean, it literally is, if there is a reliable food source, those deer will continue to pour into it.
I'm just telling you, like, guys want to act like you can't kill deer over corn piles. Like, if I go out and dump a corn pile in the corner of a big bean field, I know a 4-year-old that will be there tonight at 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the most vulnerable time for those deer right now.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is where some of these deer, kind of post-hunting season disperse to, because they have to marry themselves to that reliable food source. Like, yeah, thermal cover becomes important and things like that, but I mean, it's food. That's what it comes down to. And so, if you can tell too. In fact, I was looking at a property here in Western Pennsylvania the other day on the real estate side, and like there was they just started cutting one of the cornfields, and I mean, it was freaking highways into this thing. So that these deer are just piling into that place because it is the food source in the area. Period. But like most of the time, I don't know. I mean, are you seeing them? So I still see quite a few deer working on the bulbs in my brassica fields, but not as much as I probably would thought at this point.
Yeah. I only had one of my 3 brassica plots really pan out, like to where I've got bulbs because I had to replant later in the year and stuff. But yeah, they're all eating pretty well.
Your beans, though, are what's really drawing.
Beans seem to be pulling the most. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, again, if you think from an ag side, especially in like Iowa, like there aren't many people leaving crop standing if they don't have to. I mean, that's valuable land. Same with Illinois at the farm. Like they're not leaving anything standing there.
Man, I love getting into woods so much this time of year. Like it just lifts the veil off of it. Like when I went out and walked that property and found that shed the other day, I was just like, a lot of it is stuff that I'd stayed out of since this time last year. And so, for better or worse, it's like you go in and you see, holy cow, like this place is littered with sign. And it's like, it's if you know what you're looking for, you're like, boy, that right here is where I could kill this deer next year as long as he's still there or whatever. You can learn so much just walking through the woods and just being in it, just experiencing it. I have a lot of fun listening to like, in fact, Johnny Stewart might stop in later today. Johnny, I know, is good at that. And Bo, those big woods guys, Martonic from the north and stuff, they talk a lot about what to look for in those big woods off-season scouting missions and stuff. And it's like once you've kind of figured out and understand how deer are going to use terrain and topography and different food sources, like it's, boy, pretty doable, right? Yeah. That's how I feel. I'm like, I can kill this thing.
Like I met up with Johnny in Iowa a couple weeks ago when he came out, and we got on deer pretty much instantly.
You know what? I was texting Johnny. Were you guys together at that time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that November?
No, it was
October?
January.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
It wouldn't have been then. I think he was hunting in Illinois in November.
Yeah, he came out to Iowa late season, like January.
He was in Ohio, and then he came out to you, right?
Yeah, then he went back to Ohio.
That's the life, man.
It's crazy when you think. I mean, I would say, obviously, take away, like, that late October, November time period. If there is anything good about February, it's when the weather's right. It's my favorite time of the year to be in the woods, just from just being out there and just putting miles
from
on.
A scouting standpoint. Yeah.
Well, I don't fear screwing up anything.
Yeah, it's liberating
at all. Like I just,
you
just flail. You just go. You just cover ground. If it looks like there's a trail going up in that bedding area, you freaking go up in there.
I know.
Yeah, it is. It's liberating at this point because you've been so meticulous about how you've approached everything for the last 4 or 5 months, and now it's just like, man, I've been waiting to see what the hell's in there.
Pressure's off. You can go see it, and there it is. There's a sign.
And that's the intel that kills deer next year.
All of the things that you're like suspecting throughout the season, like with trail camera data or sightings or just like intuition or whatever. It's like you go out right now, and it's like there's no there's no like thing. It's just there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
I mean, you got to use some discernment though, because some of that stuff can lead you astray during the season.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Because you got to decipher when that sign was made.
There you go.
Ranges. A lot of guys wait for the snow to melt, but I used to do that. But now I like it better when the snow is on.
So it's like super fresh.
Yeah, because you can track a lot more, like Johnny does, and like Bobby Worthington, he likes when the snow's down. That's when he goes identify a lot of his rut funnels and stuff.
You know what's kind of perplexing for me is like, so you talk about like especially bedding right now. Like when I first came across, like, and we had in Faldon was originally involved with that farm country box production. To me, that was a big part of like the promotion of that style of hunting or of scouting anyways, finding like those leeward ridges. And like, I'd never heard that stuff. It was a pretty eye-opening for me. And so it was probably this time of year I went out and I was looking for that stuff. And then I was like, well, here they are. And here's these beds and here's this and here's that. To this day, I'm fairly perplexed by what will cause a deer in my area to use a certain bedding area or another. You know, you can run through fact like wind direction seems to make the most sense, seasonal food sources. But I mean, dude, even right now, so I'm very actively monitoring a big 10-acre bean field that is holding a lot of, 4-year-old bucks. Yeah. And I'm having a real tough time patterning, like even those specific bucks. Like one day they may choose to bed in this block of woods, and the next day it may be this block, and I'm actively looking. It's, same wind pattern. The food source hasn't changed. It's like something, whether it's just the group of deer that they're with or something has pushed them on to one way for a certain day. So if I were to say, okay, what pattern am I going to hunt? Like obviously I'm going to try to pick my highest odds, like where they're traveling the most, but I mean, dude, they're coming from 3 or 4 different directions.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have just one bed or just one bedding.
I know, it's annoying. It's like, dude, just go to your bed. Yeah. Are you too good for your home?
Go to your home.
That's why a lot of the sits, I mean, in reality, you don't see any deer. You're just setting up on the bed. You got the exit route, and then a lot of times they never show up. It's kind of a educated gamble, I guess. But like a 3.5 to 5.5 year old buck is one of the hardest deer to pattern. They're kind of nomadic until they get a little bit older. I think when they get like 6.5, they start locking into their core range really hardcore, and I think that's a more patternable buck than that 4.5 to 5.5.
You think their number of beds decreases over time? Like, what do you think it is from like a 3 to 5 year old buck? How many different bucks or how many different beds, like let's say in the month of October until you're getting into pre-rut stuff, do you think they're using?
Man, that could be. It's hard to really tell because the personality of the buck.
Well, and landscape, features, really.
Landscape. Yeah. I mean, the less cover you got, it's more likely he's going to be bedded in the same spots. When you got like way more cover, he can move around a lot more. Some bucks move a lot, some don't. I don't know.
They radio collared some deer from Mississippi State. I think it was I don't know if it was in the Delta, Mississippi. I think it was. And that deer in like October had like 29 different beds.
I know. And so, the thought of like hunting a bed.
And I mean, given that was
wild when you think about it.
That's farm fragmented landscape, right? Which be like your home farm, a lot of the Iowa farm area and stuff. As you get into big woods, I think you have less beds in big woods because the habitat features are not as favorable in those big woods. Like you'll have certain areas that are thicker, more cover, wind direction and terrain is different. And then you'll have, like my old farm, or my farm now, before I cut it, it was 100 acres of just mature timber. Like, sure, a buck could lay on a saddle ridge or something and bed there, but like there's better cover, 500 yards away over here.
How much do you think randomization is a part of their strategy? Like to say, hey, if I bed in the same place more than once, I'm vulnerable to attack, either by humans or predators.
I bet it's more of a reliability than it is randomization.
Yeah, I think they set up more to observe you than they are like. I don't think they're playing a chess game with you. I don't think they're that educated.
Those really. 1 and 2 year olds is random. Like, I mean, you'll watch a 1-year-old and he'll just be like,
free to get on that mic, Rendell. I own it.
He'll just be like,
get right up in there.
He'll just lay down. Like you'll watch him and you're like, feed, just drops. Like that's random. But I think those 3, 4, 5-year-old bucks are more on reliability of a spot.
Well, so for instance, like I've got some of those bucks right now. I can view one of like, I wouldn't traditionally call it a bedding area, but I've watched them multiple times get up out of this bed and work off towards that bean field, and it's pretty wide open timber.
There's got to be something there, maybe south facing for warmth.
It's it's westerly facing, interestingly
So
enough.
warmer than obviously a north or east face.
I'm going to say it's the only thing to me that it's really got going for it is like geographically it's fairly isolated. It's like out at the end of a point.
Yep.
A bunch of deer are bedding there, bucks and does.
Yep.
And maybe that afternoon sun is catching them enough. I mean, that's probably the biggest benefit. And then they have the ability to get up and walk with the wind somewhat in their face towards that food source.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be more.
But they're wide open, Rendell. I can see them from the road. Like I'll pull over and I'm like, oh, there they
Yeah.
are. I can see through the woods.
They're either watching out or they're something to do with the wind flow, the wind current there. It could do something a little different than you think, and it's giving them advantage. The thermals with the wind flow, it swirls a certain way that's different than any other terrain feature around it. I mean, that would be my guess why they're doing that. I mean, bed hunting is not, you got your principles, but not everything's 100%. Like, this is what you do. It's all situational. All the bucks are different. That's for you to go out, scout, figure it out. And a rule of thumb to get on them quick, but there's still a lot of outflyers. And I think when we talk about the different beds, I think there's very limited bulletproof beds, and that's where you're going to have your most dominant mature buck in that one bed. That's why I think that older deer has less beds and he shrinks his core because he's going to bed in the best possible spots. And that pushes the other deer out. The younger 4.5-year-old bucks are more in the secondary satellite bedding. So they're usually not set up like bulletproof. They'll have a couple of holes in there.
Yeah.
So, because that primary bedding is just limited.
I do think visually that's a huge part of it. Like this time of year when I can get up, so, Eastern Central House where I'm somewhat hill country, farm country. When you get up into one of those, like, a pocket of buck bedding, like typically he's got a few beds on a knob and stuff. But it's like, dude, how would you ever get in here? It's like once you get up in there, it's like you can see what he can see, and you're like, of course, like, that's where I park my truck right there and this and that. And it's like, it'd be a miracle for me to be able to get in on this place. They can see so far.
I mean, I would assume, though, like the three of us, we've all probably killed mature bucks coming to or from bed, like, bed hunting, basically. It's just like there have been cases where I've hunted like within bow range of the bed, but I would say that I'm way more successful playing off of that bed and trying to just make sure I'm between where I think he's going.
Sure.
Or coming from.
I've never personally, I don't think, killed one right on a bed necessarily. That North Dakota buck I killed was maybe the closest this past year. I got in as close to where I figured he would be. I had never seen the bed. I'd never been in there. But I was on an island that he kind of had to come.
He had to come through.
So I probably was within 100 yards. I would think.
I was within about 200 yards of his bed, and I wasn't hunting him. I was hunting another buck that I knew was bedding up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, you think about, and I say that people will say, well, yeah, they're always coming to or from a bed. But if you think about just the normal hunt, like especially a rut hunt when they're cruising or they're chasing and stuff, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking like pure setup of like I'm catching him first thing in the morning coming back, or I'm catching him at last light leaving to go somewhere. And I think that in the pattern ability time of the season, whether that's early season or what we were just talking about late season, it's the most lethal way to get them.
Boy, you're making me miss it. Like there's nothing better than feeling like you're in that zone.
You're in the game.
You're just like, dude, he's got to be right in here.
Yeah.
He could pop up any minute.
I feel like the early season's probably your best because you got the cover.
Yep.
You can slide in. I like to be like 100 yards away from the bed or closer. Late season,
it's tough.
That gets super hard. And then you got
your cover's gone.
All the does are pushed up on the bedding and the bucks are layered in behind that. So I ended up in Iowa this year, late season. I had to hunt right on the food. I couldn't even get into the timber because if you don't have the backdoor access, a lot of that public, you only got one access in. So you got to go through the food. So you might as well just stay out. Then you're just kind of.
It's like last light at that point, right? I mean, by the time he gets there.
Of the buck, like if he shows up, that's why you try to hunt that cold snap. But we never really got it until after the season. It dropped to like -42, and that's when you need to be out.
When's Iowa wrap up?
January 10th.
Yeah.
Yep, we got it right after.
Yeah, man, I always feel so crunched to get it. Like Kansas is the same way. It's the end of December, and it's like we hunt in third week of November, and I'm like, cool. I'll just wait December out, and just when it gets cold, I'm gonna jump in there, and it
doesn't happen.
It never does. Sometimes it does,
Rarely.
Yeah, we got the big snow the day before the last day of the season, and then I went in and I set up on this 190,
the Mega, right?
Yeah, that 190-inch buck. I got pictures of. I went in on that in the snow. I tracked him in, and then 2 shed bucks came out. They had fresh blood on their pedicles. So I was like, I didn't know if one was him or not, but he just never showed up. So it was like, I feel if we would have got that cold front that week sooner when it was below 0, I mean, you have to have it below 0 to have that really good hunting. Because a lot of those deer will long line too.
Yeah, definitely.
They'll go a mile even in the late season to go hit a food source. So we were finding a lot of long lining, like when I was hunting with Johnny, a lot of deer were long lining out, and we were catching them
in the mornings, then coming back when they were long lining out. Yeah,
or even in the evening they'd long line out. But we were catching them coming off of private, cutting through public, and then going to food.
Wow!
So it's just finding that food source and trying to get in between. But when it's warm like that, man, they just hold up until after dark. So you got to have that cold push them in or a big snow.
Well, and it sounds like in Iowa, too. Again, not very familiar with it, but it's one of the more successful times for a lot of the non-residents to get their tag and that late muzzleloader and stuff.
Way easier.
Yeah, so you've got basically that added pressure on top of it.
Dude, I'm so excited for Iowa. Yeah. Before we jump into that, dude, the late season is really challenging. Like, we have places that even though we have the food, I can't even hunt that I can pretty easily hunt in the early season because the foliage on the trees, like a lot of our bedding is on eastern facing hillsides and stuff, and it kind of will dip down. We have like creeks and stuff, and then the food sources are, obviously on the next thing over. So it's like you get into them and you're just far enough away, but when that foliage is off, they can see you cut from a mile away. Honestly, it has me really wanting to invest in dense, whether you want to call it thermal cover or just visual barriers, things like CRP and any kind of like
giant
coniferous trees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Miscanthus. Your grasses, your pine tree type stuff. Those things create real visual barriers, during a time of the year where there's nothing else left. And we lack a lot of that.
A key for Iowa is there's a ton of like cedars and spruce.
Yeah.
They will move into that, and that'll give you a lot of cover.
Definitely.
Because the outer limb, the branches hang down so low. Even though it has an open understory, the end branches around it hang down low. You can get pretty close if they're bedded and stuff like that. So it just depends on the setup on the property, because a lot of guys cut them down, like a lot of the guys that start doing
a lot of people cut the equip and stuff gets them to cut their cedars and stuff down.
So if you can find a place that they leave them in, that's a really good spot to get
the only reason you would take it out of there is to replace it with like early successional, correct?
Yeah, or
you can't burn a field with cedars.
Yeah, right. So you just want to create better warm season
big fire.
warm season grasses and stuff.
You'd be surprised in Iowa some of those fires.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of February, we're getting ready to do a burn.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll show you some pictures here we burned off 25 acres last year, 10 of which I put into a bean field, but the rest of it used to be just old fescue and stuff. Dude, that stuff's like 6 foot tall right now. Like, I'm blown away to plant anything. It's just what was in the seed bed.
The native.
So I got a remaining, I think, 10-acre field I'm going to burn off here in the next couple of weeks.
It'll be big.
I could use your help for that, actually, since I mentioned it.
All right, let me know.
If you're going to be around.
That year 2 now, you'll start to have more woody type browse and stuff. Yeah, you'll have more briars and whatnot built in there.
There's definitely a lot of like legumes or what, like
that's the initial stuff, disturbance based stuff.
And there's some stuff that's shot way up. There's some goldenrod in there. There's some, I don't know what all of it is, but I hope that it wasn't like a first year and then it goes back to what. So I'm curious to see what this year will look like.
Pumping structure into that. Yeah, I mean that's the kind of stuff that in your country, changes the game. I'm opening things up in my area.
I know.
It's a lot harder to open up than it is to make it thicker.
Yeah.
When you have open ground.
Yeah.
Because I gotta use machinery. You can use just a fire.
Yeah. Well, I maybe sore subject, but like you want to get into your this past season. You didn't shoot one this year, right?
God no. I passed a lot of deer though. That a lot of guys would have shot, but you know me, I'm going.
So no tags punched this year. Does?
Nope, nothing. Didn't shoot anything.
Draw the bow?
Yeah, I did draw the bow a couple times.
Okay. Did you? So go back to the beginning though. You were affected by EHD, right?
Yeah, it smoked my whole counties around where I live. It killed all my target bucks. Died.
Wow. So I mean, they're right away. It's like all this planning, all this prep work that we're talking about right now at this time of year, out the window in a lot of cases.
It was gone. I was on a couple booners I had lined up them last year.
Does that include that area that we're talking about?
Yeah, a little bit, but it didn't hit it as bad.
Okay.
It was mostly up kind of where I live.
That's what we heard.
It hit like the corners of Iowa really hard. Even Zone 5 got some EHD, but like the corners got smoked, and like where I live at, man, it totally just wiped it out. I'm like, guys,
you're Zone 3 where you're at?
I live in Zone 1800. No.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. Well, I heard
Zone 1792.
Yes.
I forget who it was. I guess it was maybe Skip was telling us, like some of 6,
yeah,
some of 4 got smoked.
6 got smoked, 4, 3, even some of 5. But mostly on like the Mississippi, Missouri River corridors.
Yeah, that's where those mud flats with all those tributaries coming in really blew up.
And it was like the driest year. So we got into a drought like 2019, and this was like the worst year of the drought. Yeah.
You guys are you still kind of in a drought? I know Minnesota was saying that they're in a drought now.
Yeah, we're in a big drought. I was kind of
thinking about it from the Dakota standpoint.
Well, they say that every couple of years a new strain of those midge flies come up that the deer aren't used to yet.
And just smokes them.
And it just smoked them out. So I went in, man, I had all this intel set up, dude. I was pumped. Like, I thought it was going to be the best season ever. And then you go right into it, and all your deer die. I mean, I almost cried. Like,
did you find any of them?
Yeah, I found a couple of them.
Really?
Yeah. I just got to get salvage tags for them still.
What a sick feeling, that dude.
Oh, yeah. There was dead deer everywhere. Guys that were pheasant hunting, farmers, they were just finding hundreds of deer just dead all over, like creeks full of them, ponds.
Freaking destructive,
CRP.
Man.
It's devastating.
Like, it's one of the, I hunted 60 days of Iowa almost straight, and I only seen, I don't even know if I seen 30 deer.
Holy shit.
Wow.
But I don't know, I'm kind of stubborn, so I'm like, I got to find one somewhere. So in retrospect, I should have left my area of Iowa and went to a different one. I left kind of late. I went late season.
Yep.
But I don't know. I just got stubborn. Was like, I'm going to dig one out, which I did find 2 shooter bucks. It just didn't work out for me. But
the hard part is, I mean, you know, for those like booners that you're saying, like it takes 5 years to grow them back now.
Oh yeah. Easy.
Like,
so now I got to make an adjustment for this year because I'm probably not hunting.
How does that make you feel?
Frustrated because now I got to go find new ground, scout it all out, figure everything. So this spring I'll be doing a lot of leg work, trying to figure out like different pockets of Iowa where I want to concentrate hunting. Now some people say after EHD the bucks that do live really blow up.
Oh, they will.
And not only that, but there's bound to be an element of dispersal.
Yeah.
You know, there's now that you've like
space,
all these deer have been kind of cleared out. I think some of them will pick up and maybe move a bit.
So I did pass a lot of like 140 class bucks.
Yeah.
That were kind of young.
So they have potential.
So they got potential to blow up.
I mean, what are you looking for? What's your standard in a home state of Iowa? 4, 5, certain antler age class?
150 plus or 4.5 plus year old buck.
4.5 plus.
Or something, I don't know, unique racks.
Yeah.
If I had a drop time.
If you like it, you shoot it.
Yeah.
All right. The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt Archery.
Oh, dude, it's almost fall. You and I are both going to be in a tree stand with brand new Hoyt bows. We're going to be shooting the RX-7 carbon bow this year. I know Hoyt's also got the Venoms out, both equally smooth shooting, quiet bows.
Heck yeah, man. And we got a convert on our hands this year. We got a lifelong crossbow guy with a vertical bow in his hands for maybe the first time ever, a good friend of mine. And we've got them all decked out with the inline accessories from the QAD integrated Ultra Rest to the quiver. And also he's got the SL sidebar mount with a couple of stabilizers from Hoyt as well. So that's going to be a 6-shooting bow.
Yeah, and Hoyt's been cool enough that anyone listening to this can save 20% on any of the soft good apparels online using the code HUNTR, HUNTR, no E. And if you want to look at the latest lineup of Hoyt bows, check out your local Hoyt dealer.
Got serious? Get Hoyt.
Do you think that with kind of how that affected the area, do you think that will deter non-residents? Like,
no, because most people don't even really know about it that don't live in the state. And then, like I was telling you earlier, like we're 5 or 6 years into the hunting public, and now all those guys that watch that show are drawing. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting way more pressure than what I'm used to. So now I got to start looking at like how the deer are shifting with the pressure. Getting into like little pockets and stuff. But I'm going to diversify myself. I'm going to try to get more free permission. I've looked into like leasing some stuff in some different states. So I'm going to broadcast myself. Like I'm going to try to draw Kansas. I'm going to hunt Illinois every year now. Hunt Iowa. I'm going to dip down to Missouri.
Yeah, you almost have to. Like we, especially when you're in a big buck state like Iowa or Illinois or Kansas, and we found ourselves even guilty of this, is like when you dedicate yourself, especially to like a farm or a group of farms or public in an area, and that herd either gets hit with an EHD, or let's even say you hit it with lockdown, right, during the rut. If that time is dedicated or carved out already, you're screwed. Like you need to be able to hunt different deer herds in different areas.
Dude, it's amazing what just a little bit of distance, like you're saying, options will do. I was listening to even Winky's, he was kind of recapping a season on his farm and stuff. Yeah. I didn't realize, and he's had admittedly a tough season, right? I think he killed one, but he didn't see the age class or the bucks that he was looking to see on this farm, and they put a lot of work into it. I didn't realize that farm that he bought is just a mile or two from that lease where he killed.
They showed the aerial.
You saw that?
I watched that.
And he's like, man, it's just like a different world over there. That's like I was having great hunts and lots of good deer, and it's just he's really struggling just right over there.
Different herd, man.
Yeah, and you'll run into that in Iowa a bunch. It'll just be little pockets that'll blow up.
Probably has a lot to do with the people there, right? The hunting pressure.
Yeah, and if you
got
good private land managers around that are doing it right. There's like if there's adjacent public, I always try to jump on that because you're going to get some influx out of their property.
They're controlling the borders of what's happening versus like if it's a wide open around that public, like, just like even our Illinois farm, which is not around public, it's around private, but every freaking 3-year-old that steps off that line is getting smoked during gun season. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the stuff that and you're not going to know it by just looking at a map, right? It's going to take time and experience on the ground to figure out, like, holy hell, these guys are getting smoked.
It's ever evolving too. Like you have neighbors come and go, and you have permission gained and lost, and it's ever changing.
You'll find the sweet spots.
You kind of got to just focus on your own stuff, and do your best to make it as good as possible. And only you can control the deer that you shoot and stuff like that. That has.
So I know you kind of switched around. You were kind of forced to switch around. Traditionally, when you find a buck in Iowa, are you hunting him from early season to late season? Like you're like, man, this deer's going to stick there, or you move
early season, and then I'm gone.
You're gone
because I feel like the rut. They're just going to do whatever. Really hard to pattern.
So you got to move.
Yeah, but I'm working on some stuff for that.
Some more consistency.
Yeah, that move into the rut on some of these target bucks. I got a couple really good resources that are good at that.
There you go.
So I've been deep diving because I feel like, I don't know, gear can assist you, but knowledge is what kills the deer.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to just fill all the holes in my hunting game, if that's what you want to call it.
You and Nick both.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get better as much as I can.
Yeah.
So
right, Nick?
Like
filling holes?
Like when you stop learning is when you fail. Like when you're not open to what's going on. Like, boom, you got the early season stuff dialed in, but now I want to work on rut. I want to work on late season. And I used to do all that postseason scouting, but this year I did more in-season scouting.
Yeah.
Which it was not a good year because the EHD killed a ton of deer, so it was really hard to find sign. But I did find a couple really good bucks.
In retrospect, though, knowing that they're there at that time when they can be hunted is critical.
Yeah.
Well, here's how I look at that. Right now you can get a baseline knowledge of the property itself, the topography, the terrain, historic sign and stuff like that. You can confirm that with in-season scouting.
Yeah.
Because not every good spot is going to have a mature buck in it. You can confirm that by real-time data.
Can we talk about that historic sign a little bit? I'd be interested.
Podcast, go for it.
Okay. Oh, it is.
Yeah, sure, let's go.
Wow. Thanks. I appreciate it.
We can talk about whatever you want.
What do you think in terms of, especially we talked about this time of year being out there, bare bones of the woods and really picking up sign, even when a deer is, let's say it gets shot or it dies of EHD, when you start finding that historic sign, do you start saying like, this is going to be likely a good area regardless of if that deer made it through or not, or are you very much married to the deer itself over the sign?
I kind of do both sometimes. Yeah. I like the historical sign if you are not identifying the actual buck that you're going to be hunting. Like if you're rut hunting or you're just trying to get on a buck, then I like the historical sign. But I've noticed that a lot of the bigger deer that I've killed, they don't leave a lot of sign. There's like no sign except for their little core area.
Interesting.
And it's not really historical. Like they just shifted into that for some reason or another. So it can go both ways. I do look for the historical stuff and note that. And then I really search out, though, for like the hidden gem. That buck's not leaving a lot of sign, because most of those booners that I killed,
they're not dropping.
No one would ever hunt there ever where I killed them at, because there's just no sign at all. No historical sign. There's one little crappy rub, or there's like a little tiny scrape. Like nothing that would indicate that there's a big deer there.
I think that's what I guess I was getting at, because like I know when we hunt, for 5-6 years in a row, we were shed hunting Kansas around that late February, early March timeframe. You know, you put 20 miles on, you're going to see some amazing sign in some places. And eventually, you and I started to filter into those areas because we're like, hey, that was good sign, that was good sign. But, you know, ultimately, like, we didn't really have the best success where we saw that sign. Like, it just was vacated. And so it just seems so random in some cases. Like, obviously, if you see, you know, a giant rub line and stuff, like, there was a big buck probably working that area. It's just when and... you know, if maybe it was a personality of that deer that he was using it, now he's dead, and there may not be anything that backfills it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's why I focus on finding the bedding area first.
Yep.
Then I know the bedding areas are there, then I can spot check that for a fresh sign, and it could tip me off like a little thing, like, oh, there's a scrape popped up or a rub, which I'm running cameras on that, so
sure.
I got a mock scrape usually somewhere really tight to that bedding area where I think the mature buck would be. So I'm using photo intel.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I use tracks a ton. Like most guys,
I think that's a big one. And
don't do that.
Well, it's because it's a lost skill.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like I know, I forget where it was.
That's what killed that North Dakota buck. Sure. That's it. Basically, was his track. We didn't have pictures or anything like that. There he was. He's going to that island.
That 175 I shot in the marsh. Like I just seen that set of tracks postseason, and I went right in there in season and killed him.
I think it was Indiana that we had a lease a while ago. We didn't even hunt it, but like we were walking through a field and we found like maybe one of the biggest buck tracks I've ever seen.
Right by that campground.
And I was like, there's an absolute slob in here. I don't know where he is, but it's postseason. He's made it through at this point.
Yeah, there's a couple of crackheads. A neighbor store camera. First day.
Wow.
Saw us drive in there, I think.
Yeah, and so
we never did hunt it. There was a giant in there, right? It was probably a 4-year-old. Right?
Yeah, that big one.
Could have been one.
I found one on my Kentucky farm too, which frankly, in retrospect, I don't know. Could have been that one deer I got on camera, but like it was maybe March or so, and I mean a giant buck track, and I'm like, that's a big deer. Mm. And those are the kind of, I think, intels just as much as some of this historical sign that, frankly, that's at least telling me, I don't know what his headgear looks like, but I know there's a big mature buck in this area, which is about as good as you're going to get in most cases.
I think on the, a lot of our conversation is about, like, what is the strategy? How do you, like, as far as off-season scouting and, like, how to bring it all together? Like, I think that there's, like, a mental hurdle that a lot of guys it just comes with experience, and you know, I'll give you. I think you're one of these guys. Ben Rising is one of those guys where it's like, if you take credit back from the deer, like, because we give them so much, it's like, it's a ghost, and they're this, and they're so, you know, if you just break it down and just say, okay, it's just an animal that lives in the woods, and then also understand from like a scouting and understanding of like the wood standpoint, it's not just like this is what deer do.
Yeah,
because a lot of people I think are inclined to feel that way, and that's where I kind of push back pretty hard on, and you know, they're great guys to put them together and stuff, but like apps that tell you when deer move and things that claim to say this is how, you know, it's good or it's bad to hunt. It's like, dude, it's an animal, and you just have to get between where it's at and where it's going. And typically it's going to do that in daylight hours under certain conditions, if you understand those. So it's like, it's not rocket science.
Yeah, exactly.
It does take luck, but it's like, it's pretty doable if you can understand it, right, and be where they are. Frankly, that's the hardest part anymore, is finding places where, you know, mature age bucks live.
Yeah, I think the grind, persistence, and the mental aspect of hunting will kill more deer than anything else.
I would agree.
Like you're not going to kill them if you're not in the woods.
Yep.
And I think a lot of that, like you said, experience. Like I use my instincts a lot. Mm-hmm. I just might be walking in the woods, and I'm analyzing everything as I'm walking, but I don't even know I am. I'm just kind of like,
and then it just
I'll
hits
get it.
You, man.
We take it for granted constantly, dude. It's funny. I have people call me just from the podcast, and we promote our phone numbers out there all over the place for real estate and stuff. I have people call, and I have great conversations, and some of those are just like, hey, I've never hunted before. Can you kind of fill me in? And it's hard to try to be like, okay, let me take this back. And you start to realize how much you take for granted about what you know.
It's just instinctive in a lot of cases, and that's a very hard thing to teach or explain to someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you can walk with somebody in the woods and they're just going, and it's hard. It's hard to know what they're doing or thinking because they're just on automatic mode.
Yeah, well, and most people are doing it. Like if the three of us walk through the woods, I guarantee we would do an analysis on everything different.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but we're constantly analyzing.
We'd all be coming back to the same point, which is this is either a good spot or not. But I mean, we're looking at different things or we're reading different signs.
We're constantly analyzing. And you also understand that like your time out there is what's the word? Like you need to, it's valuable.
You got to be efficient.
You got to be efficient.
Well,
right?
yeah. How many times are you going to walk? Like, especially if you're shed hunting, you're probably walking through that place. You may never be back there.
You're like, hey, I'm going to walk this one time. I want to intake as much as I want to remember every single, know, piece of information here so I can piece it together. And then if I happen to come back in October and I observe real time or I know that a buck is here, I'm going to be able to put that puzzle piece together and take advantage of it.
Yeah. So I think that's important to identify your style. What's important to you? Like me, I prioritize bedding over anything. That's the first thing I go look at.
Mm-hmm.
So I just look, all right, I think the deer are going to be bedded in these 4 areas. So I just go straight in. I don't even look at the other stuff. I go straight to the bedding areas. Oh, I hit on this one. Nope, I missed. And over time, you get better because it's experience.
Yeah.
Looking at, like, I hunted Indiana. I rolled in, never hunted there before. I speed scouted, just driving around on the road, like, in the morning, and then I looked on the e-map and I was like, oh, there's looked like an old clear cut, so I was like bedding, and then I drove in there and standing corn, and I was like, ding ding ding, like Iowa, like this is someone hunting Iowa, gone. I instantly threw my stuff on, walked a mile through the standing corn, set up on 0 sign. I mean, there was nothing, and then I had a buck come out 20 yards for like 20 minutes. I just watched him, drew back on him. I was like, it's the first afternoon. I'm just going to let him go. Like, I already beat this deer, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't even know if he was Pope and Young or not. It was hard to tell because the racks were blending in with the corn so good. But like that, just identifying something that I'm used to, like bedding, and then you get a knack for that with experience. Like I rolled into a totally different state and was like, oh, it's got to be a bedding area right there. And I went right in with the food. And then
I think there's a comfortability there too with different styles. Like you saying the bedding there, like, I feel really good with like funnels and pinch points.
Yeah.
I would say that I'm probably weak at, like, I can identify bedding, but I bet I'm weak at hunting that bedding efficiently. I'm better at hunting funnels and pinch points because I can get in there and I can eyeball. In fact, sometimes too good to where I'm shooting at them at the base of my tree.
Yeah.
But that's just, that's what my strength is, at least. Whereas if you said in that case, like, hey, here's this bedding, how are you going to hunt it? I'm looking for like a pinch point or a funnel more than I am how to hunt that bedding.
How much of your mindset is like catered on scrapes? Like how big are those?
I use them mostly just for inventory.
Really?
I'm not a big scrape hunter.
Dude, I got to tell you, I know that they're important and they're obviously a good inventory tool, but like the more I'm running cameras on it, even this time of year, they are like pretty much a sure thing. It seems like. I mean, if you can catch them the right time of year, I mean, dude, it is just a trigger in their brain. When it rains, they know that it's especially like a community scrape. Yep. Troy described it really well. We had Troy Pottinger, you know Troy?
Yep.
From Idaho on last week.
I talked to him some.
He's a great dude, and he was, big scrape guy, right?
Oh, yeah,
and he was describing where you find those community scrapes, and this made a lot of sense to me. He was talking about, the area that you feel a buck is bedding, his core bedding area, and where you feel is surrounding doe bedding area, typically where those circles overlap.
That's where
you're going to find like a community scrape. That tin shed gas line stand that I have is like the perfect culmination of it's right where that big buck circle stops and doe bedding starts. I can access it because of that gas line, like
critical
perfectly. And it just happens to be, whatever access allows me to hunt that with a northwest wind. And it's just like, we killed a really nice 4-year-old buck there this year. And it's just like, dude, you find some spots like that.
That is the only scrapes I tend to hunt is the community scrapes between two bedding areas.
Yep. Like, I would agree.
it's a gold mine.
I would agree. Well, there's plenty of field edge scrapes and stuff that it's just like they might do it once and never again.
Yeah, I mean, those community scrapes, they're, you know, you can have a camera hanging in May and they're visiting those things.
They're hitting them right now.
Yep, they're there checking all the time. That one that we had in like the Shawnee in Illinois.
Yes,
it was a for sure community scrape.
Yeah.
It was perfect in this little bottom down there.
It's classic, what they would call a thermal hub.
Yeah, and for all spring, we're just bucks just crushing all spring, and you know, just hitting the licking branch and stuff. Like, people think about scrapes and they're like, well, you know, I don't see them working it and stuff. It's like, dude, they're not going to be pawing and pissing it. They're just hitting licking branch, making sure those glands get on there. It's just a communication.
You can
standpoint.
start them too. I mean, I think it's very heavily dependent on where they are.
Yeah.
The location is huge.
It's all about location.
But both of those community scrapes, I started. Like, I built them, and they use them, like, I mean,
that's an interesting. So
religiously,
especially if you're talking about like Troy's strategy, if you can know where you think those bucks are bedding and where that doe overlap is, you could create then a community scrape that's probably a deadly area.
100%. Yeah. Well, and honestly, so like when I picked up that shed the other day, a big thing that I was trying to take in is like, can I find a community scrape somewhere?
Right.
Yeah.
And I did.
Did you?
Yeah, I happened to be 25 yards from where I found that shed. And it just happens to be, fortunately, somewhere I could access it to hunt it. If it wasn't, or if I didn't find one, I mean, I would use that.
Put a camera on it for just monitoring.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to get a picture of a mature buck, it's going to be on that scrape in the staging area.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just like when I set up on their beds, I'm usually in their staging area close to the bed. So if you do the mock scrapes, make a community scrape, I tend to push them right up to the bedding. They got security cover, they can get right up out of bed and come out. And I tend to get more pictures of mature deer because you got the field edge ones, and the mature buck to come to a field edge scrape is like 5% or something.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is
too.
people, like, most of the scrapes people encounter are those like field edge type. Those are not community scrapes.
No,
they're you know, they're far from the bedding. That community scrape is going to be frequented very often because it's closer to the bedding area side of things.
I think the hard part is knowing, what's what, because you can, I mean, they don't look any different necessarily. Maybe a community scrape is slightly bigger or more heavily used. I mean, a lot of them are going to have twisted up branches and stuff. I think, in my opinion, it has most to do with location.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to know, you're like, hey, it makes sense that this would be a community scrape, and a camera can confirm that, right? If you run a camera for any period.
Some of the ones in Iowa are as big as this table. Those are the ones I tend to focus on.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But they're not always that big.
Yeah.
But I think location's the key there.
And a bigger buck's usually got some higher licking branches that he's using than the other deer, and a little bit. Like, if you see a really thick branch snapped off and it's a little higher up, then I know there's a bigger buck in the area.
But put it this way, I mean, even if it's now or February, March, whatever, if you're running a camera on a scrape and the deer aren't visiting it, it's not a community scrape.
Sure. Yeah.
Dude, I have a bit of OCD anyways, I guess. But when I go out, we've done this before, but I have no specific situations coming to mind. When I see people when I'm getting ready to put in a scrape, I know how important the location is and that specific licking branch is. And sometimes I see people grab onto the thing and, like, if they'll horse it and break it off or something, I'm like, do you realize what you've done?
Yeah, that thing's not growing back.
Like, we had one chance to get that stick in the right spot.
Now you got to, like, replace it every year.
You got to rebuild the tree. I'm going to bring a new one in.
Well, that was what I thought was interesting about Troy. He's literally looking at what the preference is from a tree species, and he's bringing that branch in a lot of cases. And I was like, I didn't know how deer would react to that. If I think about it that way, and it's like, man, if I can go, like, in my mountain areas, like, it's beach. It's American beach for whatever reason. Like, I can go and cut that off, and I could bring that into whatever, maple.
Yeah, Indiana has a bunch of beech trees. I found all kinds of scrapes.
Man. Yeah,
I was more red oak,
but
they will put scrapes on cedars too.
I've seen that. That Kansas, we see cedars a lot.
Or I'll bring in a vine, like I'll cut a wild vine and hang it.
Yeah,
they like that a lot too.
Yeah. It's weird when you think about that kind of preference side of things, but I mean, it makes sense.
What a deadly tactic, dude. What else is there that draws deer to an area like that for inventory and, if you're going to hunt over it? Or I mean, a lot of the guys who are consistently successful are, especially in, I want to say timbered environment. I mean, there's things you can do, like with, if you have the ability to, like, plant small destination food sources and those types of things can certainly draw deer to an area. But, like, dude, what outside of a scrape is more... a corn pile, right?
I think that's where you start looking at some of these guys' hunting tactics, and they constantly are seeing deer in fields, and they're hugging field edges, and they're seeing scrapes there. They don't realize like the more used scrapes are deeper into those woods, closer to the bedding area. And so they just consistently sit on the field. And frankly, especially as you go through the season until you get late, like the amount of deer in that field are just going to decrease and decrease and decrease and decrease until late season, where eventually it reverts back. And it's like, there's no wonder, like you're telling me in late October, you're not seeing deer. You're sitting on a cut bean field that, they're not visiting until midnight at this point.
Dude, sign is so cool. It's just like it's real proof that they were there. Yeah. Like, how many people wander out in the woods and are just like, I don't know, I have my stand in a certain spot, or it's just like they just go to the woods and they're just hunting, as opposed to like there's real data here. There's he stood right here. Like, we don't know if it was day or night or whatever. And he laid this here. He rubbed that tree up. He put this right here, and then try to deduct back to, or maybe you can find the bedding and stuff and put all those pieces together, tracks and stuff. It's like that's real. Like, that's actual, like, we're hunting. We're reading sign. Cool. We're actually interpreting it, and we're going to make a strategy off of it. We're not just, like, bumbling out in the woods.
Yeah, woodsmanship's
super
cool.
There you go.
To know you have that skill set's just cool to me. Like, I figured this buck out just by this or that. It's cool. I'm not just sitting a field edge. But back to the mental thing, I think that's where the field edge guys are struggling.
They are.
They move into the woods, and then they don't see any deer.
Yep.
And then they think they're doing it wrong. But in reality, when the right deer shows up and you do see one, it's usually the one you want to shoot.
Yeah, you don't see numbers.
Yeah,
you
it's like a trade-off.
Well, access is probably a big hurdle for guys. It's hard for people to understand. Like, if I didn't know that buck was up on that leeward knob, like, I might just walk right at the base of the hill there and not understand that he's going to see me every single time.
Yeah, or they go in on the wrong wind.
I still do that. Like, I've messed up, and I'll be like, yeah, there he was. Yeah. Of course, he saw me coming in.
I think it depends on the area, too. Like, you experienced it in North Dakota. Most of the deer I kill, I see one deer that when I kill him, and it's the deer. Yeah. I don't see a pile of deer coming through. Mm-hmm. Like, your Ohio farm's probably unique in that. A lot of deer. You see a lot of deer. Most of the time, I see a deer, and it's the deer I'm after. Mm-hmm. And if I don't see anything, it's not a big miss, because it's just he didn't show up.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll see, like, I don't know, it'd be like one or two does,
like a doe in a fawn group or something,
satellite bucks. But then that's where your setup stand placement's huge, because you got to get by. They got to get by you, so you got to play the wind right. Got to have a good setup, and then it's almost like the mature bucks using those other deer is like
test run.
That's the hardest part about dummies. Food sources, man. I really struggle, like, because it's like, yes, they have to get past you first of all, but then you have to, like, there's only a certain percentage that you're going to be successful in that hunt, and it's never 50% or more, right? So you have to then get out, otherwise you're blowing future opportunities, and it's like, it seems like it really dwindles your opportunity to hunt food sources, because you hunt it once or twice, and then it's like it's shot for a while.
Well, think about even in the timber, like that's my experience, and like the majority of stand setups that I have, even in a mobile situation, is I set up for where that deer's coming from for where my shot is. The plan D in the back of my head is what happens once that deer gets by me, because most of the time I'm busted. Right, so in Rendell's case, if I have doe groups coming through a satellite, I'm not shooting those deer. They're going to get by me, and they're probably going to win me at some point, because I'm just set up to kill that deer as he comes through my shooting lane, and that's it. So it's all of those factors that eventually, blow the hunt in most cases. I mean, very rarely can I say, especially with the way thermals and stuff pull in some of these terrain values, that like I can foolproof myself to that deer can come through my shooting lane and get by me, and eventually doesn't win me, and I'm still set up in the right spot.
Dude, a chess match really is a really good analogy for hunting a deer, because if you think about like pieces getting taken off the table as you're, taking chances like that, you're essentially blowing opportunities you might have there in the future. But strategically, you might sacrifice the pawn to take a queen or something like that.
I shot one. When was that? I can't remember which deer it was. I set up in an area like that, and I knew that if deer got by me, I was going to get busted. So the first doe that came out, mature doe, I shot her, knowing that if she got by me,
nobody's going to blow at me.
If she got by me, I was screwed. And then I killed the mature buck like an hour later.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one way to do it.
But I mean, like, how many times does that actually work out, in those situations?
Well, it certainly puts the pressure on that first encounter of the night. That North Dakota buck is a great example. It's like they're going to smell it.
That doe's going to come through.
And so these first does come, and I know how critical it is that it's fine if they booger, but like I don't want them to alert this buck that I know is back there.
And it will.
So it's super important that I'm as serious about that situation as I can be. And unfortunately, I had some does come by me. They smelled me, and they just somehow they made it past. And
even that second doe that was with him, luckily he was so close behind her that she didn't have a chance to ruin it for him. Yeah,
the gig was up. I mean, he boogered, he jumped, and then I killed him right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
that's right. And we've talked about that in the moment of it. It's like instinct takes over and you draw that bow and you get it done.
I think more people miss opportunities at bucks that they don't see because of those first deer blowing the opportunity for what sits behind it.
Way more than not, probably. That happens a ton.
I'm like an extreme risk taker because that's what it takes. Like, man, a lot of those setups to kill those mature deer, you got an off wind. I've noticed most of them are coming out on off winds.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to give them the wind.
Yeah.
And if other deer come out, I've had other deer blow up some
Absolutely.
giant, some 200-inch bucks and just ruin my chance. But there's no other way. Like, you just have to take the risk sometimes.
Here's a big piece of it. So, like, generally speaking, I'm not a fan of cattle, right? Just because anywhere the cattle are, there's no habitat there. They're eating
they mow it down.
But they create massive opportunities to give mature bucks the wind in their favor. If you can take advantage of access through a pasture or anything, whatever, a solar field, anything that's like deer aren't.
Yeah, I do that already.
People don't consider that enough. They're looking for where deer are, but where they aren't are where we need to be.
Through.
That's how we access. That's how we can use, blow our wind in that direction.
And the cattle pasture is usually really easy to get access to.
Sure.
Like the guy doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
So I roll through.
Yep.
And set up like that. And the deer don't like to be in with the cattle at all.
Not at all.
I'll use that a bunch.
Yep.
And they'll go right to the end there, dude. I mean, especially in farm country where we're at, they treat it the same way. Those bucks are like, well, it's just cows out in that field, so like it's fine. And they'll walk the edge of that ridge on the leeward side or whatever with the wind in their face coming up to the scrape it all the way until they're at that fence where they're like, okay, I reached the end of it. And that's where you're at. Yeah. Oh, those spots are deadly.
Little pinch point funnel deal. I will say if you're accessing through cattle and there's cattle in there and you go out in the dark, they will chase you.
Oh, damn straight they will.
I had this whole herd behind me.
You stand your
ground was like shaking and I made the mistake of running in the dark.
What kind of cows? Yeah, you don't run from cows.
They were like Angus.
Oh, Angus are no problem.
I took off, though.
Brangus, you got to watch them. The ones with the horns going down.
Dude, the ones that, it's not even that, because we see it in Kansas all the time. It's that when they follow me and I get up in my stand and then they just sit under me and they're like,
I call them in turkey
I never
hunting.
hunt in pastures. That's the word.
I call them in turkey hunting sometimes.
Yep.
But I was
They're curious.
I was accessing out and I was like, oh, man, I'm just going to run. And they were right behind me, and the ground was like
that was the wrong move.
Bad. I felt like
they're so fast.
I felt like a bullfighter.
You got to stand and challenge them.
But then my big ass was like, I'm going to jump this barbed wire fence. I only made it like halfway up, and then it flipped me over in. I was like holding my bow up, like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Hilarious.
And I was just cussing the cattle on the way out, and I was like, oh, never doing that again.
I usually cover my feet in cow shit.
Oh, me too.
Oh, nice.
I step in every pie I get.
Oh, yeah.
Rub
just
it on
scent. Yeah, just rolling in it.
Dude,
I get serious with the cow
makeup.
shit. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cover everything that I can possibly get.
If you eat it, you sweat it out, and it covers up your pores.
Is that right? Wow.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's interesting when you start to look at those. The access thing has been, it's kind of, obviously you look at the wind direction. Like, I feel like that's the first thing from a woodsmanship. It was like, hey, enter via the wind. Then it was like, okay, what's your cover or your screening like? Then it really became, to your point, like, where are the deer not going to be?
Exactly.
That allows me to have that free entry. Because even with screening and stuff, like if you've got great, switchgrass or miscanthus or sorghum or whatever, and those deer are just over in the ag field or food plot over from you, it doesn't matter what you have, you're blowing them out. Like they're gonna bust out of there.
What do you mean? They see it?
Well, they just know you're there. Like it's not you slipping through that screening, even with the wind in your favor. Like you're probably not going to get through there super clean. There's going to be a deer at the edge of the screening and the food plot. You're 5 feet from it, and it's going to hear you, and it's going to booger a bit. Like it's not a foolproof plan. The foolproof plan is how do you either sacrifice whatever's downwind of you and get to the far outside away from it, or to your point, go through a pasture where there are, or whatever it is, that there are no deer on there.
There's always sacrifice, yeah. And if you're willing to get creative and actually, walk, I can't say that because like there are situations where driving in, I mean,
are you e-biking or anything?
I have not done that yet. I was looking into it though.
I just figured because you have to cover some serious ground and it's fairly open terrain in a lot of cases.
Access is like up there with Woodsmanship. I go through I usually use water. I don't kayak, but I'll walk through I walk through drains, ditches, rivers.
The shit that's over mine and Jared's head, you're just waist deep.
I'm just in there going. I'll loop around. I'll go like 2 miles out of my way and loop in. I try not to go where everybody else is going because a lot of the deer are set up to watch that. Like you were talking about, they set up to watch you.
Yep.
Even though the wind's not right for them to be there, they're a visual bed.
The
deer.
toughest farms are like where it's like a ag field with a road that runs through the center of it and big ridges all around it. You can't go anywhere.
You just described Bill Winke's farm.
Yeah, exactly.
And some of ours in Ohio. It's
I hunt some public like that. Man,
Winke's is that way. Yeah.
You'll pop up a ridge and 3 ridges over, you'll see bucks get up and just blow.
And the minute you're on
there.
their property, off.
Yeah, and the later in the season you go, the worse it gets.
Yeah, it's just straight visibility entering through that. I mean, it's the toughest. That's what's happening with that Ohio place I have right now. Prior to timbering, my main access as well as my main food was through the middle, and it's ridges up above me. Mm-hmm. So even if I'm slipping in there as good as I can, they're up above me watching me walk in there and do that.
It's really challenging.
Yeah, you're screwed.
Bill Winke's on to that camping in the woods thing. When it's like that, that's pretty much what you needed to be doing.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's how he killed that big buck on that lease.
A lot of guys are going to like e-bikes and just rolling by and then looping back around because it seems like the e-bike doesn't really bother them that much unless you
and in farm country, so there's a fact, so deer can't count, right? Yeah. So like as much as I like being on foot and sneaking in and it truly being undetected, there are situations I think that if you can drive in on a tractor or even a machine, it depends. Like there's properties that never see that kind of activity. So obviously that's going to freak them out.
The old Winky field clear with the vehicle to come pick you up.
I mean, I've done all types.
Well, but even on the way in, like, dude,
my
parents are constantly, and like we fight about it or whatever, but they're giving farm tours and stuff and dirt, it's just, they use the property, right? So the machines are on those roads constantly. And we will take advantage of, sometimes your best bet really is to get driven into a property and dropped off. And it's kind of stressful because they hear you, maybe see you. But if you can give the illusion that like, hey, you came in, you came out, especially in a bait state, sometimes they'll come. They're like, hey, let's.
Yeah, that's the dinner bell for them.
There's the dinner bell.
I mean, I've had buddies drive me in like free permission properties and drop me off back before. Mm-hmm. We got into all the saddle and lightweight stands. I was hanging presets and stuff.
Yep.
And I've had the vehicle parked there hanging a preset and deer just comes right out next to you, just meandering around. But if that vehicle wasn't there, they ain't doing that.
Well, I was going to say,
they see you walking in, they freak out.
I fully believe that if you have to, like, if you're in a situation where you're not sure, if you can get driven in or dropped off, you're going to spook deer way less than you trying to sneak in and walk through there.
I know. Dude, it's so funny, like, and my dad's made just so many improvements. Like, he's just really doing great. But it's funny to think back on, like, there was a time where, and I think I figured it out before he did, is why I'm bringing it up, but it was almost like the thought was, like, in the mornings and stuff, if he can just get to the stand, anything that happened prior to that in the dark was just, like, washed clean. And it's fine. I got to the stand, and it's just, that's not the case. Like, if you drive through a field and there's deer in it and stuff, I mean, yes, there is some disorientation or whatever.
Morning hunting is fucking tough.
Oh, dude, I don't do it, frankly, until like they're cruising.
Basically. I love it. It's amazing. Awesome to be there in complete darkness as things lighten up. But I mean, it is tough to do it right.
If I can loop around the food, I'll do it. But if I
you have to get in the back side of the food.
If I walk in the food, I'll never will until like late October.
Can't do it.
Yeah, you can't do it. It's nearly impossible. You literally have to, if you can either find the right property where there's the main food source up front, then it goes back in and you can come through that back door to get in between them. I mean, it's golden. It's almost a foolproof setup at that point, depending on the wind.
I get a lot of permission just to access through properties, but Bush Light is like your key in Iowa, just so you know. Like,
just bring the old case of Bush.
Yep, drop it, have it in the hand. And the guy's like, I just want to walk through here. And he's like, that's it. And I'm like, yep, here you go.
That for me?
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't you leave those here, boy?
He's like, it's actually 29 pack. I went on the way in.
Yeah, and then some of the times you'll gain permission after a while. Yep. Because he's like, oh, you were cool. You didn't drive my fields. You didn't do any of this crazy stuff.
I would assume that's probably the biggest mistake that deer hunters make right now is the way that they hunt mornings, especially around food. Yeah. Like it inevitably, to your point of your dad, like walking in, everything, like a deer blows or something. Oh, it's under the cover darkness. I'm in early enough. They're not going to mess up. You've immediately changed the entire movement of that day by blowing that deer out of there.
Yes. Well, and guys got to understand, like, what's the word? Crepuscular?
Crepuscular.
So, so
pretty amazing.
So
I'm impressed.
I don't even know what it means.
It just basically means they're not nocturnal; they're crepuscular, which means they move
dawn and dusk.
Dawn and dusk are your peak movement times,
Yeah.
and so in the afternoon, it's pretty doable because
it's clean.
Well, just based on your bedding and stuff, you know where they're at, and so you can determine a place of access. The flip is in the morning. It's like they're not at that look. I mean, they may be in a food source, like if you can pin that down, but they're up, they're moving around. It's way harder to get in.
And they're J-hooking and doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, when they go in the morning too, they're not thinking about thermals dropping right now. They're like, oh, thermals are rising in the morning. Well, not when it's dark. You're in there.
That's another dadism. If it's the morning, the thermals are rising.
Well, dude,
not until like 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So you got all the flooding of thermals, especially ag land. Your thermals are just flooding out into the fields. The guys are like, why am I getting busted right now? I was like, well, the thermals are dropping and flooding out there, dude.
Yeah. I mean, freaking old school for me. Like, it was probably college before I even paid attention to what the hell the wind was even doing.
Yeah.
I was probably 10 years ago before I even heard the term thermals. Like, I didn't pay attention to any of that. My dad was smoking cigarettes across from me in the tree stand, killing bucks. I didn't pay attention to that stuff. It just
I don't
wasn't.
even think it was until
it wasn't relevant.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Muddy.
Man, Jared, we probably have been using Muddy products for at least 10 years now.
It's a long time, dude.
It's been a long time. And I can remember when it was simply just safety harnesses and camera arms of all things. And, that's evolved to where you and I both have a bunch of Muddy box blinds as well.
I would say a bunch. But yeah, they've come a long way. And certainly the box blinds are huge. Shot that buck over your shoulder out of a Muddy box blind a couple years ago. The harness and all of the other safety accessories really are a major component of what Muddy offers for me. We've had some injuries in the past. I've had some tree stand accidents. This is all back before we were using, frankly, harnesses, the lineman's belt while we're hanging stuff, and the safe lines. I have those in every single one of, our fixed tree stands now. And so we really have made safety a priority. That's a big deal for us. And, Muddy has everything we need for that.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing about Muddy is anyone listening to the HUNTR Podcast can save 20% using the code HUNTR20. That's HUNTR20. Anything that you can see on the Muddy Outdoors store online, use that code, save yourself 20% for this hunting season.
Go Muddy. When was who were some of the first? It was like Scent Blocker, right? Who were some of the first camo companies that were trying to address the scent thing?
Scent Lock and Scent Blocker were like
there was
the
some
originals.
patents and stuff around carbon technology, right?
That's
when was that?
Stuff.
2010. 12?
I mean, there were all your big buck killers were
10
paying
years
attention to it.
Yeah.
It's just the common guy was not.
Yeah, not me. I was just using whatever I bought at Walmart.
Exactly. Me too. Mismatched. I had one tree stand. It was built out of fucking 2x4s.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter if it was a north, south, east, west wind. I was sitting in that tree stand.
A lot of the old timers guys been hanging clothes outside or burying them for as long as
the smoke on the clothes above the wood burner and stuff has been a big one.
That's cedar branches.
Cedar branches in. Yeah, who was it? Was it Troy? Troy said he hangs his clothes out all freaking year.
Yeah.
They do not come inside once he starts.
It's a hard thing to get. Everybody's got a different thought process on
I am absolutely zero. I got ASIO gear from last season. I wore all season. I haven't even washed none of it yet. I've worn it 2 years in a row.
Yep.
I mean, I just don't care. I just rely on my
wind and thermals.
My knowledge of it.
We're getting there. Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I don't believe that if your wind's blowing out a mature buck, there is no beating him.
No,
He's
you're
gone.
Screwed.
They light me up like that.
Yeah, you're done.
Me. And I'm not foolproof. I mean, I make mistakes.
Sure.
A lot of times the wind's not doing what you want, but I'm adding features like rivers. I'm trying to blockade my downwind.
You're digging rivers?
Yeah, just dig them out with the shovel, man.
Play the terrain.
I dig holes in the ground and I put my legs in them and sit on my butt,
Do you really?
Yeah, cornfields and stuff. No.
Is the hole necessary?
Yeah, because
seems like a lot of work.
It's more comfortable when
it's a foxhole.
Yeah, basically. There's some guys that do that old school.
Old school foxhole digs.
Yeah, there's actually a company that makes like a trash can lid that goes over them so they don't fill with water after you dig them.
Wow.
I don't know the name of the company, but I've seen it on YouTube or something.
That's interesting. Yeah,
But
I mean,
I've done that sometimes.
I think it's just hard to. I mean, there's still plenty of guys that just hunt and that don't pay attention to the wind at all.
And they still kill deer sometimes.
Kill way bigger bucks than us.
Yeah, I mean, it's either luck
it
or you kill a bunch of 2-year-olds because
or what they think the wind's doing, it's not doing. They're like, oh, my wind's blowing at that deer, but it really wasn't.
Well, I mean, dude, how many
doing
times
something
have
else.
we
How many
played
times
the
have you been
wind?
like, it's a north wind, they're like, right, blowing to the north?
Yeah.
I'm like,
never.
wait a minute. No.
Well,
Yeah.
most of the time when I pull up my app, I'm like, okay, northwest wind. I get there and it's southeast.
Oh,
I'm like, what
yeah.
the fuck is going on?
Or the winds doesn't even matter because your thermals
are just
overriding it.
overriding it.
Dude,
Yeah.
there are spots that I still can't figure out on our family farm that's like, I know that they're not, it's rarely doing what the prevailing wind is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've known that. So it's like, I'll try to hunt it on different wind situation. And I just can't. It just seems like no matter what, it's just sucking up into this draw or something. And it's just like, seemingly there's no way to hunt it.
Well, yeah, think about some of the hubs. Like, I mean, some of the best community scrapes I found, especially in the big woods, are in these hubs. They're impossible to hunt because the wind is just doing this.
Yeah.
Thermal's trying to pull it down and prevailing's twisting it around. But I mean, ultimately, at some point, I'm going to roll the dice and hunt it anyways because if I don't, like, I'm not going to kill them.
I think some of what Troy was talking about is that old man's beard or something.
Yeah, so that's like this. It's in the South. It's like a Spanish moss that's like hanging off the tree.
He sees it in the photo, in the trail cam photos, and it tells him what the wind's doing.
I'm super interested by that. I mean, most of my cameras are on, scrapes and stuff like that. It seems like I could pretty easily.
I thought about. I actually switched using yarn.
Oh yeah, that would be a great one. Yarn would do it.
I put it on there so I can see it in the camera picture.
That's smart. Yeah,
I'm throwing. Is it sensitive enough? Like, can you?
It
tell?
is.
Yeah, I actually split it to make it lighter.
Yeah.
I don't use the whole piece. I split it.
Yeah,
up.
I mean, if you could do, I've seen guys use like a super light monofilament with milkweed at the end, still just enough to like catch it and lift.
Yeah, you can put a feather on there or anything really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Think of like old trapping, like just to get wind attention for like a bobcat or whatever. Same thing in a
Works
tree.
good.
Yeah, that's huge. If you could figure, because there's those spots, man. I've got like an oak flat, and there's this ditch, and it's just like they're core spots that like terrain wise, and where I know they're using it. I just can't ever figure out how to hunt it.
There are places that you can't hunt. I mean, you can, but you're not going to kill the deer.
Risky.
It's just going to be, and it. Could you get lucky and shoot them? Absolutely. But I mean, logically, everything's against you.
And then it's trying to figure out, like, I got one of the bucks that died at EHD. Every southwest wind, he'd show up on this one camera every single time, but no other wind. So it's like, all right.
A prevailing southwest wind.
Yeah, trying to figure that out. Like, okay, why is he doing this? But I correlated it to southwest wind. The wind's coming from the parking lot on public land. That's the only wind. It comes from the parking lot.
So he can sense
smell
who's there.
anything from the parking lot, which is really interesting.
Mm.
And he would always stay out from the scrape. He only came in like once, but I'd catch him.
Scent checking it.
Yeah, like 50 yards away, because some of those cameras can pick up pretty far out.
I think that's some of the good stuff about scouting right now too. Is like, in most cases, like, when we're in Kansas or even in my Ohio place, like, I know that 9 times out of 10 in most parts of the year, it's a southwest wind, right? Like, that's what's coming through. And so, like, historically, I expect to see the most sign in conjunction with that type of wind. What I'm looking for are then the winds that are going to throw him off his game a little bit. So maybe it is that straight north or that northwest type of thing, and then how can I play with them? And it's tough for people, I think, to your point. You're doing the analysis, even though all I'm doing is just looking and studying it. In my head, I'm thinking, okay, he knows, like, on a southwest wind, he's almost foolproof. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be able to get in here and kill him. But if it flips into a northwest or a north wind, like, now he's thrown off his game a little bit. Where's he going to switch to? Where is he going to shift?
Where's he going?
And he's not as good. He's not as good as identifying things when he's off his game like that.
Iowa east winds really throw the bucks off.
We had a bunch of east winds this year.
Yeah, this year was weird.
We don't talk about that. Yeah, east winds are deadly.
Kill wind.
Well, because it's just not the prevailing wind. Like, anytime you have a situation where they're like, it's not as common. It's like, okay, I got to do.
They don't know what to do.
I have some. I have 2 stands that are maybe more than that, but I have 2 go-to east wind stands that, like, it's almost a guaranteed sighting. Like
they usually don't have a bedding area for east wind, so they go to a bedding area that they have for a different wind.
Yeah.
And that is your loophole, because that gives you a chance to get in there.
Yep.
And make them vulnerable. So that's a big key.
And I think a lot of people see that east wind and they're like, I'm not hunting today.
Yeah, I'm in the woods instantly, dude. I'm like pumped up. Like,
throws them off their game, man. I'm
getting close to something.
The more that people think
I'm leaving here with something.
The more that people just kind of overanalyze these deer and stuff, the more they have to realize is the things that make you uncomfortable are likely also going to make that buck uncomfortable. And that's your opportune time. Like, you're going to gamble a bit. Right, but at the same time, he's going to be off his game on what he's used to, and that's what's going to end up making a mistake. That's why the doe makes him off his game, and that's what causes a mistake.
Yeah, and you got to stack that up in your favor, because you usually only get one chance.
That's it.
Like, you get one sit, and then he's on you. Like, he smells you, a doe comes by, smells you, he alerts the buck that you were there. They make it a danger area. And a lot of times, if you blow the does out, that buck ain't gonna stay there. He's gonna have to go find somewhere else to go because the rut's coming up. He's like, oh, my doe group shifted. I'm gonna shift over there, so it might not be on public land anymore. So you got to really watch what you're doing. Sometimes access, you're gonna have to blow deer out to get to that bed. I think that's why I try to get close as I can to the bed, because it's less likely other deer are going to come past me that I have to worry about.
Right.
So if you can ninja your way by them, sometimes you blow them out and you're
and
like,
you don't care about those deer anyway. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny to think about. Like, deer probably hate public land. It's probably pretty annoying for them to live there.
I bet they do.
They're like, there's freaking always people walking through my house here. Like
that one kid that makes the reel in the deer suits.
Oh yeah.
Hilarious.
It's so funny, dude.
He does the public versus private.
He's like, are you going to shoot me right now? Yeah, he's like, I'm going to go over here where it's all
exactly.
Nebraska and stuff.
Awesome. Like the public versus private buck. The
private
his buck's all shot to hell, and he's all, God, like me when I rolled in here this morning, I was hurting. And the private buck's all fat and happy. It doesn't care about anything,
Yeah.
Funny. It's hilarious.
Gets hit in the ass. He's like, fuck you. Jumps on like
you
the snowmobile and stuff.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I don't think deer know if they're on public or private. I mean, they have no way of knowing that.
Sure.
But
there are some cases, and we've talked about, and I would say it's highly debatable, especially for people that hunt both. It depends on the area. You talk about Iowa having not a lot of public ground. You talk about Ohio not having a lot of public ground. There are definitely in certain places that I think some public is better than private, especially like as you go north in Pennsylvania, where you have literally hundreds of thousands of acres. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying obviously you can't go out and do a food plot and stuff, but the quality of deer and the amount of probably mature bucks in those areas is just as good of private, if not better. Some of those private areas, frankly, get way hunted too hard versus the public in retrospect.
Dude, I gotta tell you, guys are killing some giants in southwestern Pennsylvania.
I know, man.
Like surprisingly, off just like small couple acre private.
But if you look around it, there are big public areas around it. A lot of game lands in those areas. Forbes State Forest.
Not specifically where I'm talking about. Some of the same guys are killing giants in the big woods.
I noticed,
absolutely.
Yeah, I noticed some ag when I was driving through.
Yeah.
Area.
That deer was bedded on state forest ground, and I killed him on private. Came right across. Was bedded right on the knob. Came down, and I shot him.
Yep.
But I mean, it's just. Now, if you take that same thing and you think about like Iowa, like clearly there are better private ground in Iowa than there are public, but
not all the time.
Not all the time.
I have some private ground I hunt that is absolute trash.
Is it because it gets pressured, or is it just
it just sucks?
Yeah.
That's how I got permission. Like nobody else
would
want to hunt there. So I'm like, it's Iowa, man. Just give me whatever I can get.
That seems to be like a phenomenon, though, in ag country specifically, but mainly like Illinois and Iowa. It's like, well, the deer herd is not everywhere.
Yeah.
Like it's in specific
pockets.
Areas.
But the key is, if you get a crappy piece of land like that, I don't shoot any does on it, and I leave it totally alone until the rut. And then every now and again, every other year or so, I'll get a giant that just rolls in there for like 3 or 4 days.
And there's your case of no sign and everything, and then all of a sudden he's there.
You can jump right into that crappy private. In early season, I just go blow up all the premium public stuff. because you just got to get in there before everyone else does.
Nick does that with public toilets.
Yeah.
Blows up all the quality ones.
He eats Taco
Bell, yeah.
Sorry, Nick. He gets a brunt of a lot of our diet.
Something came up the other day, and I don't know, some influencer promoting something. I was like, dude, if we got a Taco Bell sponsorship, we would be in the chips.
That'd be dope.
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow, man.
That's good.
I probably eat it once a week.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
I do. Probably do too during the deer season.
Oh, dude.
I'm off it now. I'm back on my.
I'm still classic
Straight up.
though, man. I'm just like, give me like a 6 to 10 pack of crunchies, and I'm good. That's all I need.
Chalupas are my favorite Taco Bell meal.
What's a chalupa?
I don't even know. Man.
No.
What
I
do you
probably
get?
had
I'm
it.
offended right now.
I
Holy
go-
crap.
Well, I want to hear a chalupa
It's like
first.
hell, I don't even know. It's like a
Soft and
yeah, it's fried. It's
Yeah.
not really crunchy.
Yeah, it's the fried.
Yeah,
soft one.
but it's
Okay.
thick. Yeah,
I've had one of those.
What's
Good.
yours?
I get to Crunchwrap Supreme.
Oh,
This is
nice.
a
Crunchwrap
staple.
Supremes.
I
Yeah.
do 2 of those, and those new loaded burritos are
Oh,
pretty
nice.
money too. I'll do like a steak burrito.
I spent a while last night trying to find a Wendy's. I like Wendy's a lot.
Listen, Taco Bell,
Really?
if you're listening, we could have something here to offer you.
Yeah.
Man, I struggle with the true fast food anymore. I can't.
Yeah, it's-
Wendy's, and
yeah.
I will do. There's a Wendy's
not
we
too
stop
bad.
at on the way back from
They got
Kansas.
Frosties and stuff.
Oh, dude, I told Jared my Wendy's story the other day. It was not good.
Oh man.
Like I ate something that I
I'll
had
tore
food,
you
I had
up.
food poisoning
Yeah.
to the point where my wife was driving and she's like, "I'll get you to this exit." I couldn't make it. We parked on the side. I
Nice.
knew it, right? I park on the side of the highway, right? I'm running up. Everybody's honking because they know what I'm gonna
Oh,
do,
yeah.
right? And just like I don't care, you know. And so I dive like through like just this giant like briar bush. I
Nice.
lose my shoe. Don't care because I'm gonna blow. I go. And then I come back and I realized like later that night I took a giant thorn like into my foot that I had to like dig out. All because of a bad Wendy's experience.
Nice. I've gotten food poisoning from Taco Bell, a couple other places.
No,
too,
that's
but-
just normal.
After I eat Taco Bell, I just feel good about myself.
Yeah, dude. Man.
It's that one fast for whatever reason. I feel
Yeah.
good after it.
I introduced my kids to it not long ago. We were going. It became a ritual for like Ohio deer hunting camp,
Yeah.
and we stopped and I just like throw like a 10-pack of crunchies back there, and they're just
Nice.
like go to town.
Some of our
man.
listeners will know where it is. It's the Taco Bell in Calcutta
Yep,
is where I stop.
I've stopped there going to your farm.
every time. If you see me there, feel free to buy me a.
I think the one
Yeah.
I go
pay it
to.
forward. 55 burgers, 55 fries, 55
Give me some
shakes.
chalupas.
Yeah, I forget where. Mine's in. Where am I going there? I don't know. Mine's in West Virginia that I'm hitting up when I go to my Ohio farm.
Other than that, though, like I'll long line for a Chick-fil-A. I'll long line for Chick-fil-A.
It's good.
Yeah, Chipotle is tough. You can't eat it on the road. Well, I've done it, but it's challenging.
It's tough.
I'm a chip dipper.
Oh, yeah,
like,
me too.
I got the knee on the wheel and
Yeah, dip and
challenging.
man.
But
If you see me trying to eat some of this stuff, it's
I
kind
had
of
Chipotle last night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I ate-
hard to miss on the highway. You get that giant ASIO truck.
Yeah,
It's
that's
pretty
true.
cool. You guys just have one of those?
Yeah, just mine.
Uh-huh.
Joe's got a Raptor though that's fully wrapped. It's
Does
got
he?
a giant owl on it. It's way cooler than the van.
Really?
I
That's
think,
pretty cool.
yeah, I think we're gonna.
Is that your hunting vehicle too?
I'll talk to Joe about that. I don't think so because I don't want to hotspot myself.
Yeah,
like
we
where's
talk
Rendell
about that.
hunting? Look for the giant ass ASIO van.
That's a good call.
I was
Yeah,
driving
if
in
I
this morning and I was like, that is a large vehicle. Rendell's definitely here.
Yeah.
yeah,
Hard to miss, yeah.
if I was out of state, I would use it, but in Iowa, I don't think so.
I mean,
right. People key in on
we
that.
talk about it when we used to have our whitetail stuff on our truck. I didn't.
know.
I hated it, man.
I know.
Because it's just stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
In fact, we had another whitetail guy. I was on public in Kansas. He like drove by and backed up and came in. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when-
for keeping a low profile, it's tough.
Yeah,
you don't
when
want to be all tatted out.
When I do like tethered stuff, man, there'll be so many people that just stop and talk because
Yeah.
the tethered vehicles are all tatted up.
Yeah.
Or they'll even show up at like the Airbnb just randomly. Hey, we're like, who the hell is this
Have
guy?
you ever seen that freaking guy? He's on Instagram or TikTok or something. Just some like construction workers, a concrete guy, and he's like happened to see Lee and Tiffany's bus, and he's like, "Hey, it's Lee and Tiffany," and they're like waving at him. He's like, "But you guys are doing it was a lot cooler than what I'm doing." Some jag off, you know.
Oh, that's
funny.
It's Lee
freaking
and Tiffany.
hilarious, man. Yeah. No, it is. I mean, I would say that's probably one of the things that, a lot of these guys, and it used to not be a big deal. Like, I mean, how many people's trucks were wrapped and stuff, but now, especially on public, man, it is a freaking spotlight.
Yeah, you got to watch yourself.
I mean, the hunting public guys get it all the time. People know what they're driving and stuff, and so when they pull in a parking lot, they're like, holy shit, that's Warb's truck, or that's Greg's truck, or Zach's truck. Like, they're just...
Do they? They got.
I don't think
identifiable.
They're not like tatted up. But
I bet they're making an extreme effort not to.
They just know, man.
They
know what they drive.
Honestly, I know where they hunt in Iowa. I have most of the pins. There's so many guys that go blow up their stuff because they see a tree line on YouTube or something,
and they just know.
I know right where that is. Like the buck nest.
Yeah.
Like everybody knows where the buck nest is, and there's like 20 tree stands in there now.
Wow.
So that's why. Man, everybody wants to push me into filming stuff, but I don't really want to just because, I want to hide a lot of my big bucks and stuff. So I'm kind of nervous about sharing that info because people are crazy, man. They'll go do a lot.
Dude.
I even drive a spy vehicle. Like, it's something that nobody would ever expect me to be in. Like, and I drive that around. It's like you roll up in the parking lot and you're like, oh, that's not a hunter.
Drop down Chrysler Suburban. That's a drug dealer.
It's like
you know what you should do? Here, we'll give away.
Is that a Prius?
Yes.
What if you? What's the deal with all of them? Is that supposed to be some kind of universal sign? Like if a car's broken down, you put something like a bag or something.
Yeah,
in
like a white rag or whatever.
That would be the move. You pull into like a parking lot, put a rag and hang it. It's like, oh, this truck's been broken down for. Clearly been here for a long time.
Lose your wheels that way in the wrong place, though.
I have had some people try to find where I hunt, and they know what I drive, so I'll purposely drive to some crappy piece of public and park it and have a buddy pick me up.
Decoying.
And I'll go scout.
Who's trying to find
else.
where you hunt? Locals?
Dude, yeah.
Yeah?
I'll park, and then it's the crappiest spot ever, and I'll get in a vehicle with my buddy, and we'll drive.
Straight the weirdest mindset.
Straight honey dicking them.
Dude, it's wild, man.
You honey potting me?
Yeah, I am. For sure.
I never understood that. Like, I mean,
drop me a pin, bro.
It is tough, man. I mean, think about where we hunt in Kansas and how that has changed. I mean, before we could go anywhere, never run into people really that much. Now all of a sudden, dude, it's like every parking lot's full. I mean, when we park somewhere and hike in, like people know.
It's kind of why I want the e-bike.
Well, they don't know it's us necessarily, but it's. I don't think so. I mean, yeah, if we had our whitetail stickers and stuff on, then yeah.
Yeah, they knew. I mean, I did this past year.
That's the problem with decals and tattoos. And if you have an identifiable mark, it's people can figure you out, But
it's kind of why I want an e-bike because I can park, get on the e-bike, and drive the e-bike a couple miles down the road. That's it, man. Or do something else.
Those things are in the right place. It's hard in like the mountain type terrain and stuff. But if you're in some of those flat like ag areas and stuff, dude, you can cover some ground with that thing, and it is deadly.
It's kind of. I mean, it's not funny in the moment, but it's funny like. How far back on some of that stuff you'll see people.
Oh, yeah.
Because the conversation is kind of like, how did you get back here?
Yeah,
Jared ran into a bunch of Asians squirrel hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
Wisconsin this year, early season. I've seen like 100 of them.
Was it Wichita guys?
It was
they were squirrel hunting.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Chinese guys? Asian guys?
Yeah. It's insane.
I'm messing that up. I'm not sure exactly where they were from.
But
Wichita is where they were from, but
you were like deep in there too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Further than I personally would have gone for squirrels.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, there's squirrels like where I parked my truck. Like, you don't have to be this far back.
I was like 2 miles deep in some of these swamps in Wisconsin, and here comes a squirrel hunter in a swamp.
Really?
I'm like, there ain't no trees back here, dude.
Yeah.
But it's like the squirrels get pushed into the swamp because they're getting hunted so hard. That's every day there was just like 15 cars.
What is this fascination with squirrels all of a sudden?
I don't know. And they'll cook them right out there too. They carry the batter
remember
around.
They said
I get
that's
them
what they told us too.
I get them on trail camera in Iowa. They'll have the batter bag in their hand and they cook them up right there. It's kind of wild.
It's kind of cool.
General Squirrel.
I'd try it.
I'd be in for it.
Yeah.
So it
tastes a little nutty.
What about your pheasant hunters out there? Does that get rough?
Yeah,
Western Kansas,
they've
for sure.
ruined more big buck spots for me than anything.
Because they just push
Iowa
dogs.
Yeah,
a lot of bird hunters in Iowa.
Oh yeah. Well, it's one of the top pheasant hunting states.
Yeah,
especially where I live.
Iowa is.
Yeah.
Oh really?
I mean, those are the guys who find, I would say, most of the big deadheads and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they just cover ground and just push into everything.
So you have to adjust your strategy. I'm more likely to say screw it and go super risky early in a CRP field than I am in the timber because
you know it's going to get
I
blown.
know right when the rut starts, bird hunters are going to come in here and blow it up and they're done.
Interesting.
Yeah,
so,
that makes.
You don't think bucks will go back in after that? I mean, it should be fairly routine.
Usually not.
Depends
Really?
how hard it gets.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
some of those.
it gets shit pounded up there. I mean, every day there's somebody in there, every single
Really?
public piece. Yeah,
Because I
mean,
guess the birds are pretty
yeah, they're
regenerative. They keep coming back.
and tons of pheasant hunters pour in there. I mean, there's guys on it every day of the week, just pheasant hunting. Now during the rut, sometimes you'll get like an odd place, like a really tiny CRP where nobody's really bird hunting,
Right.
because the CRP is not switchgrass; it's mostly like woody browse and stuff. Then you'll get a giant buck that pushes a doe in there, and you could get
You ever been pheasant hunting?
kind of like I do it a bunch.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I mean, it's I broke my arm in college
damn.
and I couldn't bow hunt one time, so I pheasant hunted a lot.
We used to hunt my family's, some of my cousins and uncles. They own a property in Nebraska, and they get a lot of pheasant stuff out there and quail. I remember as a kid, like I think you could only shoot the roosters out there.
Yeah,
And
probably.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was the same way.
Rooster.
I was maybe 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
I was, gun was too big for me and stuff. So we're walking around and bird will fly up in front of me. I'm all, they're like, hen, hen, I'm like just fired up.
I know.
I have no idea. I'm like, how are you supposed to know? As a 12-year-old kid, I miss it
It
3
takes
times.
a hot minute to learn how to
Dude, that's the beauty of Pennsylvania.
You're like-
I ground and pound them. They start running out of autumn olives and just bam.
Well, and I don't know if anybody even told me. So I hear him, hen, and I'm like, okay, I see it.
A little tip for anybody hunting CRP: if you hear a rooster or pheasant kind of cackle, there's a deer coming. Right when I hear it, I get ready.
It's like blue jays here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Here's-
9 times out of 10, though, deer will show up.
Here's an interesting observation. Have you ever noticed this where you're at? Dude, when I see, it'll be like in October, if I have like a flock of gobblers come through, a lot of times after that, I'll see a 3-year-old or older buck. Not with
Really?
Yeah.
with them, but like there's something there. Like they're
wonder
using their eyes or something.
I wonder if the buck has confidence in the turkey's vision that there's no predators there.
For sure, a turkey's got better vision than a deer does.
I mean, I don't have the statistic, but there have been a lot of times where I've had a flock of longbeards. Like in October, it seems like they're all together. I have
I've
6
seen
or
it.
7 of them.
It's probably overlapping food source at that point too.
Probably a lot of those occurrences were on oak flats.
Yep.
So
Interesting.
Or corn boughs.
Something I'll have to pay attention
no, I'm
to.
telling you. Those turkeys will come to corn
But yeah, I mean oak flats for sure. All those acorns, those birds are in there. Bucks are in there too. That's the hot food source at that time period.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's folklore. I
don't know. I'll pay attention.
I listened to
it.
Have you never noticed that?
I listened to the Blue Jays.
Yeah,
like
the
when you
Blue
hear Blue
Jays.
Jays like really going off, I'm like something's coming.
Okay, here's one
Yeah.
for you. This pisses me off. I don't know if it's actually making a difference, but do squirrels ever like
Oh yeah.
scream at you?
Same thing.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, shut up,
Yeah.
shut up.
Yeah.
Like, and then because I see the deer out there, I'm
They
like,
alert it
Yep.
because it's like a caution.
you think
Squirrels and Blue Jays.
Think-
Same
Yeah.
thing.
you think a deer actually pay attention and will stay away from a
Absolutely.
squirrel
Oh,
that's
yeah.
screaming?
Wouldn't
They
you?
know.
I mean, if I lived in
I
the
probably
woods, I
would.
would.
They know. That's their siren basically out there.
Damn squirrels.
I always
I know.
heard the old whitetail from a guy in Ohio that crows. If you hear crows going off, there's usually a buck nearby. I've never really paid attention to it, but
Interesting.
I heard that like Coshocton area. There's an old timer there that was telling me about it.
Huh?
The only time I use crows are for turkeys. Sounding off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crow call.
Boy, there's some sounds that just are so unique to fall.
Yeah,
It's like when you start hearing them, you're like, oh, yeah, it's that time of
barred
year.
owls. Iowa, there's barred owls
Yeah.
everywhere, so I'll hear the owls going off. And I got the ASIO camo on. I just feel
Sick.
it feels like
I feel like that
At one
November.
with the owl
majestic.
community.
Yes.
Yeah. Just take me up, fly me away. Like,
Yes, my giant
November
ass up
time
in a
frame.
tree.
I hear like chickadees going off. Actually, this week I had a bunch of gobblers behind my house just like cranking,
Sweet.
Oh, yeah.
which was real cool. I could see them. I had them. They're all fanned out back there. I'm like, they'll be gone by the time the
warm
season
weather
starts.
gets them all
But
fired up.
yeah, they were all fired up. But yeah, it is funny when you get into some of those. The Blue Jays and squirrels are the big tip-offs, especially in like wood settings.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if you all of a sudden like Blue Jays really start going off, like pay attention to where they're at.
Yeah, definitely the pheasants too. And
Yeah, that's a good one. I think
We
Skip
don't
was
have
the
any
one who
pheasants
told
where
us.
we're at.
He was seeing that. I've seen grouse fly out in some cases from that. In fact, I've seen bear flushing grouse before.
Oh yeah.
Just from big disturbances in that area. They're holding tight.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean that's the woodsmanship. And man, it is tough. We've talked about it a lot. I know it's not the majority of hunters by any means, but there is a generation of hunters that because of the technology and stuff that we have available to us, have dulled down their woodsmanship because they can. They have e-mapping and they have cell cameras and whatever else. And, they're going to be successful. I mean, that's what those tools are for. But, man, it takes some of the pure joy out of it from a woodsmanship side to, how many of those guys are out walking in February and March to look at terrain and see a bedding area and read sign and maybe find a shed? Probably not many. They rely too heavily on maps and trail cameras. And once that, season's over, I think their scouting is done.
Well, and it makes sense that is the case because it can be overridden. Like you can override woodsmanship with
100%. That's why it's made.
Essentially, that kind of baiting or truthfully, even gun seasons. Like you don't really need woodsmanship for it's
to a point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, depending on your, I guess what I'm saying is range.
Yeah. Especially after like the first day of gun, the deer just
forgiveness.
everywhere.
There's forgiveness and just But yeah, the corn pile stuff we talk about all the time. That's why we don't like it. Is it overrides the need to ride.
You miss your connection with nature and like why you're actually to the point of talking about blue jays and squirrels and stuff. Like, dude, when you're sitting in a tree stand and you're paying attention to this stuff, you're pretty intertwined with what's going on around you. Versus I'm just sitting there waiting for my trail camera to ping on my phone to let me know where he's actually at. Mm-hmm. That's it. And I'm guilty of it myself. Yep, there's a deer up there. And it's like, man, that makes me sick to a point because normally I want the unknown. I've done my homework. I want to listen to the squirrel barking up over on that oak ridge to be like, something's coming through. That could be turkeys, could be a deer. I don't know. But we've kind of desensitized ourselves to having to pay attention to the nature side of things because technology's there at our fingertips.
It's like making hunting fun again. Like you don't have anxiety. I think cameras give you anxiety.
They do.
Because you're like, oh, I got this 180. Then I go hunt 3 other properties and I got a 140, 150 come out. And all I think about,
is that 180?
I got a 180. Man, should I shoot it? Should I not shoot it? Then you get all this anxiety and it kind of ruins your experience. And then you go and, 180 died from EHD. Oh, my God. I could have killed a 150. What the hell am I doing? Or
more than that,
or you never get
when
that.
It comes to patterning, it's like, well, the worst case of that is like you go solely off what the camera tells you. It's like, was he there? Was he there? Was he there? Okay, I'm going.
And you're late.
You miss it.
Right when you get that first daylight photo, you're screwed.
Well, and dude,
it takes away all your instinct. And we've talked about this before. I've missed so many opportunities at deer because I put my instinct aside and I just wait and wait and wait. And then I'm like, okay, tomorrow's the day. Yeah. And that night before or that evening before, there he was.
Or I'll go into a fresh sit, a scout, like speed scout, and I find like super hot scrape or anything. And my instinct is hunt it now. Yep. Oh, no, I'm going to hang the camera like a dumbass.
Take intel.
And then I get that daylight photo the next day, and then what? Oh, he smelled me because I was there. Then he never comes back.
That's huge, man. I think a lot of people don't understand. Like, I was trying to coax that out of Troy in the last one. He's talking about get into an area undetected. Like, I don't think that is a thing. Like, if you're in the woods, like they know it.
They know.
It may have been Brackett that said it like this for me, and just this understanding of like scent and stuff was really helpful for me. Imagine every time that you go into like the deer woods, like the scent. Your scent or whatever is like it's a coat of red paint that the deer can see, or that they're aware of. It's like there is no way to eliminate that. I mean, you can minimize it and stuff, and maybe rain will help to wash it away and stuff after the fact. But if you go into an area, they know you were there.
Oh, yeah.
They know you were there. They're going to come at night. Yeah. And so that should be a serious factor as you consider your level of aggression to go in and hunt. It's like, hey, I can go this far and hang a camera or hunt or whatever, and then he may not get there in daylight because you weren't aggressive enough, and then he's going to know you were there anyway, so he's going to have the same reaction and he's going to be more cautious. So why not just go all the way in and take full advantage?
I'm almost too aggressive.
Yeah, he's going to know you were there no matter what.
So you might as well just blow it up.
Well, go in and try to
get
it done now.
Yeah, one sit and you're done.
Yeah, you pussyfoot around too much, it's going to hurt. It's going to bite you.
He's going to know you're there, and he's game over.
Yep.
Good luck.
Yep. That's definitely a consequence of conservative hunting.
Yeah, so you got all variables. Like some guys stay out until the rut. Some guys go right in. It depends on the situation. Private land, I tend to hold it. Like I wait. But on public, I'm just ultra aggressive because another guy's going to come in and hunt it, so I might as well just go one sit and just blow up the bedding area.
Yeah. I love it, dude. It's fun to have diversity of like private and public and different, it's ever changing. And so it's just like, it really is a chess match throughout the season, and you can prepare for it beforehand, try to educate yourself. But it's just like, just that time of year, man. You just dig in and you're just rolling with it, making decisions, and learning, making mistakes. And
don't box yourself in. Like you have to be a public land hunter. You have to be private land. Just, man, you can be anything you want to be. Just be a hunter. Like, tree stand saddles, like, just go out and hunt, have fun. I think
we've been doing better at that.
Yeah.
I think in terms of because I mean, Jared and I, we get criticized for being, quote, elitist, which is not the case necessarily.
I've been called that before.
Yeah, and it's because of like the level of the bar that we set for ourselves every season.
And I don't care what other people kill. That's just my bar.
Exactly. So I think that when it comes down to it, like we talked about this pre-podcast, is we want to figure out a way that no matter how you hunt, that your experience is as fulfilling as the way that we hunt, right? And right now it's not. And people can say that, they can lie about it and say, well, public land is just, it's awesome. Like I love the experience and stuff. And it's like, listen, man, the fact is like you are dodging and hunting people.
Can I say this, Rendell? I appreciate your honesty because, you're known for like a public land guy, and that's it just is what it is. Like you've taken the hands that you were dealt and stuff. And like, so I appreciate your as we talk, because we talk all the time, right? And you're like, dude, I just gotta be honest. Like it's rough. It's hard. It's hard.
Tough.
Like it's challenging.
Yeah, it is. And I get why people like that. In fact, I remember growing up, like I hunted a lot of and I loved that challenge. I mean, when you killed a buck, like the rush of success and everything that came with it was awesome. But what's so weird, and I've said this to numerous guys in comments, is like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when I hunted public land, like I didn't feel like running into guys and like I didn't have all this external influence. It was still me against the deer trying to hunt. Now, like I hear so many guys are like, well, I got to avoid the pressure. I got to do this. And it's like, that's not hunting. You're avoiding other people. I want to hunt the deer in its element and its habitat. And most people don't get to have that experience anymore because there's a flood of people in public.
Yeah, and you get frustrated. I mean, you're set up. You spent hours and days scouting this one buck, and you get set up. And then here comes Billy Bob Gentry down the trail.
Yeah.
Rubbing nose jammer on every single tree, and he walks right through the bedding area, and then you're done. Like
that's
all
it.
That time, the one sit you had, toast.
And it wasn't you versus the deer. It was you versus Billy Bob. that is, and a lot of public land hunters will get real bent out of shape when we call them out on that. And it's just an observation. It's
on what? Who are you calling out for what?
That will say like, man, public hunting sucks because you're having to outsmart and outdupe all these people, not necessarily the deer itself.
Yeah, and there's some guys that live for that though. Like
but that's not hunting.
It is hunting.
It's like a trophy to them. They beat.
It's a pressured animal though. It's your hunt.
You're not hunting the animal. You're having to hunt around the people. Well, the animal's doing the same thing.
You are hunting the animal, but the strategy is solely based pretty much on pressure.
Yeah, so the guys,
and it's that whole thing is birthed out of like a situation where you have a lot of pressure in those areas.
So it's like a trophy. They beat the deer and they beat everyone else. Mm-hmm. So it's like,
and I see that. It's
an
admirable
a big success
accomplishment.
Which is fine.
I'm not doubting that at all. It's just that more than often they're having to put more effort in avoiding the pressure than they are out strategizing the mature buck.
Yeah,
which,
that's probably true.
In my opinion, sucks.
Well, I think
because he's pushing the deer to places he normally wouldn't be at. So
that's how people get lucky
outside of the box.
Sure. That's how people, when we see somebody kill a 200-inch deer and we're like, holy shit, no offense, how the hell did this dude kill a 200-inch deer?
I mean, he was just the right spot, right time.
Well, there you go. And so I kind of feel like, who am I to say like, hey, that's not as,
That's not what I'm saying though. I'm not saying that it's not as
different.
It's just I feel for them having to justify that it's cool.
I know, but do you hear what I'm saying? So like,
I understand.
Eberhard is somebody that comes to mind, somebody who would adamantly say, I prefer a situation where I'm having to outsmart a bunch of guys on a property to kill a certain deer. Who am I to say that that's not the truth to him?
Sure.
However, I mean, having done both, hunted deer on natural movement patterns and hunted public lands that are highly pressured, I can't see how that can really be the case. It's like, who wouldn't at their core really want to hunt a deer on a natural movement pattern that's not influenced by other people?
It's very different
or at least have that as a part of their season. Like, again, you don't have to do solely one thing, but like that.
I mean, you hunt public land for 120 days straight, man, you just got the crap kicked out of you. It's not super enjoyable. I mean,
and if you succeeded, it's amazing. Like, you've blown the roof
which
off
I could have killed
thing.
deer. I just opted to pass them.
I think
diversifying yourself, saying, hey, on the weekends, I'm going to go jump on my free permission while all the guys thump around on public. Then I'm going to roll in the public. Because on my cameras, I noticed like Tuesday through Thursday, all the bucks are daylighting on public.
I mean,
so
we've
that's
killed
the
a
time
bunch
to
of
be
deer.
there.
We've killed a bunch of deer on public ground. I mean, that's the only thing I hunted growing up. The reality is that outsmarting a mature buck on natural patterns is not freaking easy at all. If you then throw in the massive amount of pressure that most public land see, especially east of the Mississippi River, the fact is that strategy becomes you out hunting people versus how you hunt the deer. Really, what it comes down to is there's more damn luck involved than there is skill. And I'm not downplaying that. Like, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just where our goal, we've talked about it with this podcast, is I want that experience of hunting to be.
It depends.
It certainly introduces a lot more frustration.
I feel like during the rut, it's more luck. But early season, what I'm doing, there's not a lot of guys in the woods on public, so that's more skill set. Like,
there you go.
More using my skills,
and that's an awesome experience.
Let's introduce a fourth opinion here to the mix. I got Johnny's at the door.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Muddy and Stealth Cam trail cameras.
Cell cams. What an evolution the industry has seen, and we've experienced personally over the past 5, 10, whenever cameras were invented, right? It's like, man, it's totally changed the way that we inventory deer, pattern deer, and ultimately the decisions that we make when we're going out to hunt. They're a serious piece of the puzzle, and that information is invaluable for us. We trust the Muddy and Stealth Cams, together to be able to collect any of that information.
Yeah, I mean, as an admitted trail cam addict, I've definitely been guilty of underhunting places or relying too heavily on that information that's come in. That said, it's an invaluable tool to the overall management plan and strategy that I have for my own properties or even hunting public land. It doesn't matter. We have a finite amount of time in going out and hunting. So when you and I are after a particular class or quality of deer, usually a mature buck, we can't waste time hunting an area where that deer doesn't exist. And those cell cams provide that information that allow us to spend the time in the area with the highest chance to accomplish our goals.
Say it all the time, man. You can't kill them if they're not there.
That's it.
So right now, any of our listeners can use code HUNTR20 to get 20% off either Muddy or Stealth cameras. We're certainly going to be taking advantage of that, and we hope you guys do too.
Yep, check out Stealth Cam and Muddy.
Yeah,
hey,
Johnny Stewart, everybody.
Hey!
So, did you kill one in Iowa?
No, come close.
When did you go out? Because I remember I texted you this past fall, and you were in Illinois.
We were in Illinois in November, then headed out to Iowa right after Christmas. New Year's.
Yeah, because you were like Ohio, Illinois, or Iowa, and then back to Ohio for muzzleloader.
Yeah, it was like
or
the
whatever.
Late season, I come back to Ohio.
So is that like a muzzleloader tag that you drew?
Yeah,
or?
I used to get it pretty regularly, but now that's like pulling
tough.
teeth. So I'm on 3 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah, just to get out there and hunt a few days, and I stopped in Illinois on my way back through. So Iowa ended, the 10th?
Yeah.
Come back to Illinois, got there on the 12th, and for some reason in my mind I thought
Illinois ended on the 10th.
No, Illinois ended on the 14th.
14th.
Iowa's 10th. So
were you there on the 9th?
I got there. I was Iowa on the 9th.
Dude, 9th was keyed up. That's when I killed in Illinois.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
In January. I'm talking January.
Oh, forgive me. No.
Yeah,
late
November. Late season.
My bad.
That's when I was in Iowa,
Yep.
my black powder tag.
Okay.
That's when we got that snowstorm. We were at ATA.
Yeah.
I was licking my hands by then.
Because I headed to Illinois, and I got there on the 12th, and it was like minus 5, 10 degrees,
that
30,
big
40
drop
miles.
came in.
Yep.
So I hunted a few days, had light snow, but I almost thought the season ended on the 16th. And we hunted the 14th, was a Sunday in Illinois, 3 days. I'm like, tomorrow I'm going to go down in here and I'm going to get in there early, Yeah. And I was talking to that guy, I know, what's his name? He was filming Pat Reeves. There,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What's his name? Anyways, he said, you in Illinois? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I was like, you're going to stay a couple of days? You hunt? He said, no, season's over. I'm hunting. He said, well, in my area it's open. He told me he was like an hour down the road. I'm like, so maybe there's different zones. I better look into.
You got to
this.
check on it.
Yeah.
Well, did we tell you last time we were out here? When first time we hunted North Dakota, their season's like weird. It doesn't start until noon on the first day.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So we're out there at like 9 o'clock, bows in the back, and we're ready to freaking rip.
Face painted up.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, baby.
And there's only two
Nice.
roads back into this big piece of public, and this dude, we pull over and chat with him a bit. We're like, oh, where are you going? So this and that. He's like, just be careful, so you don't start till noon, right? And we're like, okay,
yeah, we know that.
That's great.
jerking off all the out-of-staters.
That's
we
good
get
to
it,
remember.
dude.
I'll
We're
have
like,
to
oh
remember
shoot,
that.
yeah, does not still
Yeah, I
start
sat
till
there and
noon.
Googled
He's trying to beat me to that
Nice.
spot.
Yeah, exactly.
We found like 2 big muleys like at 9:30.
Right out of the gate. Oh, freaking! Here we go. Right off of the side of the road.
And
here.
so it's like we got to wait like 2.5 hours to like go and make a stock on these deer.
we did. We went back to the camper,
Yeah, that's awesome.
made an early lunch, and then just kind of went back and
I'm kind of pumped.
blew
for
them
that.
out of there. That didn't pan out.
He invited me in case you didn't know.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
I'm
it's,
going.
it's an open invitation. I mean, if people,
dude, it's
we're
so
all for
fun.
it.
First of all, the Badlands, like
Nick and Allie are going to come. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
sweet.
You got to draw, right? So it's like
Okay.
I think I've heard of
March?
some guys having trouble drawing, but in our experience, it's like 50-50.
yeah,
if I
we
do, I do. If I
drew
don't,
2
I
years
don't.
in a row. Then we didn't draw last year. Or no, we drew 2 years in a row. Then we didn't draw. Then we did draw last year, and we forfeited.
Nice.
We forfeited
Well-
our one of the years because of the drought.
Oh, I got you.
I don't know if it was last year or the year before.
Yeah.
And then
Well, we didn't go last.
We're hoping to draw this year.
Yeah,
with a
we're
point.
hoping to go
Yeah,
this year.
I'll put in for it. If I don't, I'll just go to Kentucky if I don't draw.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's a blast.
Well,
in that-
whitetails are over the counter in North
Oh,
Dakota.
yeah, that's
So
right.
if you don't draw, you can still draw white. That's what I did last year. I hunted whitetails in North Dakota last year.
Yeah.
Oh, and I did ask. So
We did run into
that
some
didn't-
whitetails out there.
That didn't burn my point either, which was awesome because I wanted to make sure on that.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, that's a good call.
So you guys were looking for muleys, not whitetail?
Yeah, we were in the Badlands, Western, and we talk about like getting away from pressure and
Yeah.
stuff. Like we saw a few residents, but like it's void of life in terms of people out there. Like even in the town,
Well, we saw some people, right? There was a few trucks. I mean,
a few
they're around.
trucks. I mean, the
They're
problem
around.
is at that early season is like when you find a group of mature muleys, like that's it. That's them. Like you've got to hunt that area every single day because you may drive another 15 miles and not see a single muley buck.
You ever been on a muley hunt?
No.
It's pretty fun.
I know.
It's good
I got
stuff,
enough to
man.
do
I'm sure. I know you got
whitetails.
nothing but time, right? So
Yeah,
if I had a new hobby
yeah.
here, but
We should go, Johnny.
It's early September, right? So I mean, it's the first week. I think this year it's September 6th. It's the latest it'll ever be.
Is that when muley and whitetail? Because I was out there for whitetail maybe 2 years ago.
I think they come in at
They
the
open
same
the same
time.
day. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we draw an any deer tag, which
Nice.
allows you to hunt muleys, but then you could also hunt whitetails if you want. And we saw some big ass whitetail out there, like megas.
Yeah.
We saw one that was like all over 70s, probably.
All over,
Remember
yeah.
that non-typical?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude,
Now
I'm
we're
talking
Looked like
like
looked like a
that'd be
farm deer,
awesome.
like big
It
white
did.
antlers.
Damn.
we were driving.
Mhm.
And we saw it was a real tall 8. Like, I mean, an
I remember it
awesome
like it was
8.
yesterday. We're driving down a big valley
Yeah.
into some of the plots.
Like, I mean, a giant, like super tall 8, and you're like, oh my God, that's a giant. And then this deer comes up behind it, you're like, holy shit. It
Wow.
looked like just a farm deer freak, like stuff everywhere.
it's a pretty different, like, even though they're cohabitating there, it's like a very different mindset. So like a lot of the whitetails will filter off of big food sources into private
Okay.
because that's where most of the timber's at, like the river bottom timber.
They're feeding alfalfa usually or wheat fields.
And a
type
lot of
stuff.
the muleys are still crossing rivers and stuff, but getting up into a lot of the badlands are public.
Sitting up in the tops.
I got you.
And
So they're
you're-
going in different directions.
That's
and
cool.
your spot and stock on whitetails is hard.
Yeah,
Like few and
I
far.
can
between. You got to
imagine.
set up basically. Whereas muleys, we're going from morning to evening all day stalking. They'll run, they'll
Nice.
find shady spot, and they'll lay down. And then you restock.
I mean, if you had access to some of that private though, like dude with a hay bale blind, like,
Oh, yeah.
oh my word,
Be awesome.
I hunted the eastern side, and there wasn't,
Yep.
like northeast, there wasn't many muleys
Night
at
and
all.
day.
Night and
But I
day.
tell you
there
what,
aren't there aren't any muleys over there.
Yeah, the
well,
hunt-
very few, I think.
the hunters were thick.
Oh, yeah.
The first week of September, I'm like, holy shit, this is like PA rifle
Yeah,
season. There's
exactly.
guys everywhere. I'm like,
It's
I don't know.
opening.
Really?
Everybody
Yeah.
can get in over the counter.
There's only so many states open the 1st of September,
Yeah.
so it's tough. They got
And you
what?
couldn't get. I said, well, I'll get in the forest maybe because of the acorns dropping. It's a jungle in there,
Jungle.
man. I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's nasty.
it's
What do
Yeah.
you say in the forest? Just the
What-
woods?
the
You're talking about
woods.
public land or what?
yeah, the public land. There's a good bit of gorges and like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
state forest or plots. There's a fair amount of It's like kind of Iowa on steroids.
Garrett,
Like steep, just maybe like 300 feet elevation. Just a little more. Like kind of remind me of some Midwest. There's a lot more, not as open area. There's a lot more timber.
A lot of ag out there still too.
Yeah, ag and a big hunks of timber.
Such a diverse state. I mean, where we're hunting muleys is like in the southwestern corner of the state, western side of the state, anyways. And it's Badlands is typically where you're seeing the muleys at. But so I didn't draw last year, but I got a chance to go out and hunt. Did you see that whitetail I killed out there last year?
Yeah. This past year?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so
that was a stud, man.
That was like northwestern North Dakota.
Oh,
and
wow.
I mean, it was like totally different from where we're hunting the southwest corner of, just Missouri River bottoms, basically. Thick, gnarly
We're losing
wilderness.
deer into Montana. Like, we'll be making stalks on deer, and they'll hop the fence into Montana, and
man,
then we have
that's
to back
wild.
out.
Yeah.
That was a good
That was the biggest deer we were
Which we didn't know of
2 years ago.
We're like, can we go after him there? And I'm like, no, I don't think so.
2 years ago,
That's
we were having a tough hunt. It was it was a year of that drought and stuff, and so we were struggling to find deer. But finally, I was like, we found a mature buck. I felt like it was like a 4-year-old or mule deer. Nothing. I mean, he might have been 130.
Yeah.
I was like, fine. Let's put a stock on. The weather was terrible. We were dragging cameramen with us. It was a whole
we were in the grasslands because they had pushed all the cattle into the Badlands for grazing, which displaced all the muleys into the grasslands. So stalking difficulty went to 100 like real fast.
So I get like halfway into this stalk, maybe 3/4 of the way. We're getting up to this point. We're going to start belly crawling up this backside of this hill. And Jeremy calls me and he's like, giant. And apparently there was a big, like 160-inch 4x4 down in there that we hadn't seen.
Yeah. Full velvet comes up out of this ditch, and I'm like, oh my God. I could see Jared and the camera guy stalking. I'm like, oh God, they're going to mess it up.
Just a monster. And sure enough, we boogered some does on the way in. And they were just on edge. And they all got up on the top of this hill and were looking back at us. I'm like, oh my goodness.
There's like 8 bucks together.
And then they hopped the fence into Montana, and they were gone.
Dang.
That's wild. That's cool.
But it's a lot of It's a
lot of fun, dude. We're all for if we can make some kind of a group hunt.
It's a lot
we
of
need to start coordinating that now.
I'm definitely going next year to North Dakota.
Are you?
Yeah.
Because Bill's going to work on his hunting cabin there. And
there you go.
I told him we're going to plan something. So
there's a lot of private open to public in their plots program, which is what we hunt primarily.
Yep. That's what I was on. And then I hunted a piece out there that I found that it wasn't posted, and I was allowed to hunt it.
So you can do that.
Went all around it.
Yep.
I ended up missing a big deer, about 150-inch in velvet there. And then I know Bill we come back, and Bill had gone out there, and he said, oh, it's posted. I said, go to this spot. It's where I seen a big deer, and someone posted it. They saw I was hunting there. Not like the locals, I've been seeing you park here. You're doing anything good, And then, I said, hey, Bill, you better check that spot out. And then they had it posted up.
We had found one spot when it wasn't in drought, and there was an outfitter that had leased a lot of that ground there. And I forget, it was probably 3rd or 4th night there. Jared and I drive by this old wheat field, and there's probably 12 or 13 muley bucks in this wheat field that came up out of this river bottom.
Dude.
And I'm talking
you're underselling it.
Mega giants.
Wow.
Like, what are they, 50 yards
50
from the
yards
road?
from the truck.
I'm talking like we were driving through a preserve.
Nice.
Like 170, 180 class
Monster
muleys.
muleys.
That's wild.
Or just like, are we seeing this right now? Is this real life?
It was nuts.
Couldn't believe it. Dude, driving into some of that public was, I felt like Jurassic Park, because most of the state didn't have muleys, and it's just pretty desolate.
Yeah.
And then you get into some of that Badland country, like around big food sources and stuff, and you're like, holy shit, like there's some giants here. It's just where they're
That's
at.
pretty wild.
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah, I think that we usually spend a week there, like on a fifth wheel back in like the middle of the Badlands where, you run into some people, but it's pretty remote. You feel pretty cool because you can just go out and hunt your balls off all day and then come back to base camp and just eat a great dinner, drink some beer and stuff.
It's
like
low
hang
key
out.
too, as far as it's really enjoyable weather. It's like
70s, 70, 80s.
And as much as I'm about like my system, my camo system and stuff, it's kind of pre that. It's
We're like t-shirt hunting the whole time.
I'm pretty sure I killed my mule deer in these pants a couple of years ago. Like this in a t-shirt and a bino harness and some hiking boots, and like you're off to the races. It's just a matter of it's hiking.
Found a really nice little campsite that has like a shower barn.
Oh, cool.
Where they have built-in showers into this old barn and stuff. So dude, every night you come back, take a shower, have a good shit, eat and drink, and
like if you go to Kentucky or Nebraska or something, it's like 105
you're
degrees.
Sweating your balls
bugs
off.
I gotta tell you, dude. For me, if it's between like an early season Kentucky whitetail hunt or a North Dakota muley hunt, I'm going to North Dakota.
Sure.
And then you could do your stalking and scouting all day as opposed to like when we were out
all
there, it was
long.
like we
We're
were like
aggressive
evening,
as hell,
you know?
man.
Yeah, all day long.
Wait.
Yeah.
Find shade, you'll find bugs.
Boom. As soon as the sun comes up, we're on alfalfa fields. We're like, there they are. You watch them, you see where they go, and it's like, okay, that's a 3-mile hike. Let's go. And
That's
you go
wild.
back and pack in, and then the rest of the day you just hunt.
Yeah.
It's a nice contrast to whitetail hunting because
Yeah.
it's like whitetail hunting stressful. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of like, you're just reading sign or previous intel and stuff like that. With muleys, it's like you see them, you bet them, you stalk them.
Yeah.
And it's like the country's so vast, so like with good glass, you can really, it's deadly. That's how you kill muleys.
And there's so much ground. Like, I mean, we drove that second year when we were trying to find deer, we split up into 2 groups, and we were driving and covering a lot of ground. And it was way north of camp that I actually had, I think it was 4 or 5 bucks came blowing across the road. I'm like, holy shit, here they are. And like, we're way off from where Jared and I had killed. We both killed in the first 2 days the year before.
Wow.
And so we're, it's
not giants, but we kill.
Hell yeah. I mean,
we're
that far.
It's a 180 from the year before. And so it's like, okay, now so we narrowed it in, and we hunted that same spot every day for the rest of the trip, and we sell 20 to 30 bucks a day.
Nice.
It was just figuring out which ones you actually wanted to make approach on. And it would take 2 hours to make an approach, and then it would blow up in your face.
It's fun because, especially at the beginning of the season, like it gives you an excuse to be training throughout the season. Like as far as physical fit, you want to be in shape for that hunt because that opens doors. Like it's giant country, and you can see where they're at. And a lot of guys, I think, are just physically incapable, probably of like going all the way around to the other side of public and then walking 3 miles down in. And like, we're young, right? And I'm specifically training for these. Put 100 pounds on my back and go to Planet Fitness and get on a stepper, and so that when we go out there, I'm like, I'll go to any deer. Do you remember that mountain that I scaled?
It was fun. Yeah, it was hilarious.
He's like, hey, so I bumped this deer, and he just mule deered off and then got under this thing. And Jeremy's like, dude, you're going to have to climb this thing.
I'm just at a big lookout
I'm
point.
like,
I'm already tagged out at this lookout point, and I'm like, yep, I see where he went.
I'm like, which mountain is it? Let's go. And then I just freaking ran out there and circle around, and it's just.
What elevation, like mountain? What do you, like 400 or 500?
No. Yeah, when I say mountains, it's.
Yeah, I mean, some of them, like that one that you went up is probably 800 to 1,000 feet, up.
I don't know. I wasn't tracking elevation.
That's
he's, and he's in his socks doing it.
Well, I know. I put my boots back on. For the last bit of the stock, I go down to, I do really like those, they're more expensive than what they are, but they're socks that they dip in like a rubbery.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So they're protective, but they're socks essentially. I roll them up in my
because you have
vinyl
cactus
harness.
and stuff that you're walking
that sounds
through.
awful.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes a big difference that your boots are loud.
But most of them aren't too bad. Like where he killed his buck the first year, we were about 3 miles from the vehicle. Like we had to walk this drainage in. And the other cool thing, you're in a good spot when you're walking by. There's sheds everywhere.
Wow.
So nobody's been in there, right?
We left some late because we couldn't carry anymore.
That's great.
Yeah. When you start seeing sheds everywhere, you're like, okay, nobody's been back in here.
Mm-hmm.
And so you walk this big drainage the whole way back. We get to,
and I stalked a bigger one early on the way in.
Yeah.
We looked back, we walked right past him. Like somehow we found
that was the one that you end up going over the mountain for.
Probably a type 150 type deer. Yeah.
And so we get clear back to where the river is, and on the other side of the river is the private alfalfa field. So that's where we had seen them in the morning, moved back in. And so we're just sitting there waiting, and I think we saw one buck get up down in the bottom. We're like, okay, they're in here, but you don't know where.
You know that feeling? I mean, just like in the whitetail woods where you're in the thick of it, you're like, he's here. He's right in here.
Yeah.
That's that feeling we had. We're like, we're in them right here. Any minute they could pop up. I mean, arrows are knocked, and like we're ready to go.
Wow.
So he shot his. He made an awesome stalk. Deer came in, shot it like 10 yards. Ran up. We watched it fall over.
Popped over a little rock feature. He's freaking right there. We've been training shooting all season for 70, 80 yards. All them Western guys are like 70s. They're 20, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Well, both of us shot at like 10 yards, 15 yards.
So, and then, sunset, and we're sitting there skinning this deer, like in the middle of this river bottom and stuff. And it's
It was amazing.
That's badass.
It was one of the funnest hunts I've ever been.
Thought we were going to have to drink our urine on the way out because we ran out of water and we were pretty dehydrated.
I wouldn't advise it.
I mean, if it's each other's, it's not that bad, right?
Should we drink our own or each other's?
You go. I'd be like, you go first.
Drink yours or your buddies.
That's real yellow.
Mine didn't taste very good.
So, but yeah, it was fun, man. We got back to the truck and we tagged out, man. The next morning we woke up, drank the rest of our beers, ate all of our food, and peeled her out.
That's good.
It was great.
But it's cool to be in that kind of setting. It really is like the best description is like you feel like you're in like the old West, because I mean these towns are pretty deserted. Like there's not many people in this town. In fact, the last day we didn't tag out our second year. We hunted like hell all week and just it never happened. And the last day, like we'd been basically in the bush for a week. We're just exhausted. We go into this town and we find this like freaking like 5-star Italian restaurant. Nice. Like this dude had traveled the world, Michelin chef. And it's crazy. Like, it's in an old Western town.
In the middle of nowhere.
And it's like, we all walk in and we're just like, it's the best meal like we've ever ate in our lives. You're just sitting there just like hammering everything you could. Yeah. But that's like, it's completely different because that sets the tone then for like when we come back for whitetail, it's like, okay, now I got to be methodical. I can't be as aggressive and stuff, but you just let it all out there. And if you bump deer, he's going to bed down in the next shade. And so you just wait until he does and reset.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't freaking wait to go back, dude. That gets me so fired up.
When's drawing for that? March? We got to put in?
April maybe, but yeah, we'll keep an eye on. I mean, you know that, like, have you ever done like not like a spot and stock necessarily, but like, when you're pulling up glass, like you're walking through in an area and you're constantly like looking, it that's what it is. It's kind of like point to point and then just using your intuition for where they're going to be. And then when you see one, it's like, holy shit. And then it starts from there. You're like, now so you're putting plans together like throughout the day based off stuff you're seeing based off of where they're bedding literally right now. So it's just like, it's totally different from whitetail hunting, honestly.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not as smart, truthfully. I mean, they're not as like jump. I mean, they're not going to let you walk right up on them, but
there are some giant whitetails though, and I mean,
their antlers are huge, so it's like best of both worlds.
Yeah. Most of the time, like you would have, unless you get private access, it would be tough to kill whitetail where we were. I mean, we saw most of the whitetails on private. There was one, I guess it was an alfalfa field that we were looking over. I mean, we counted like 80 whitetails and like $30 one night, like in this field. They all are sitting down in the river bottoms and the cottonwoods and stuff. And then they're just feeding in these fields and it's all private.
Yeah.
Right now you could catch some on public as they kind of transition and move through, but it'd be tough. But I mean, there are some just freak giants out there as well from a whitetail side.
Was this past year one of your first times heading out to the Midwest, or have you been doing that for a while?
I've been, a lot of years.
Yeah.
I did Iowa for probably a dozen years now.
Really?
I was telling the story about you went there with like $35.
Oh, man.
And then the people ended up taking you in where we stayed at.
You got adopted.
Yeah, I did. And I still stay with them now. That's where Rendell came down to stay.
That place is awesome.
It was like, had to have been 12, 14 years ago. I drew a bow tag, and it only took 4 points then. And I drew it and I head out there and people say, oh, when you're going to Iowa? Yeah, when you coming back? I said, when I get my deer, not like, oh, I got a week's. No, I'm like, I'm there. Done. I shut life down here. I went to Iowa. I had an old '99 Jeep Cherokee, and I had a border collie, and we shot a doe.
Took your dog.
Yeah, he went everywhere with me. So I shot a doe at home, made jerky. I had a big bag of jerky, and this was before any Onyx maps, Spartan Forge, and like I had like.
Old printed like map
folder
stuff.
Love
it.
With maps, and I had like this folder, all these pieces of public, and I went out in October, and my buddy was coming out. We did have a room for like a week in November, but until then I was just sleeping in my Jeep along the road. And then one night I come out of the woods, and a farmer's there, and he's like, what are you hunting? We started talking. He said, come up to the house, we'll have a beer. I started drinking, and his old lady's like, where are you staying at? I was like, my Jeep, I start talking to the old man. We're talking. She's just like washing dishes. She's like, we ate dinner. She gave me dinner. Mm-hmm. She said, it's going to be 15 degrees tonight. You and your dog, where are you? I said, I just, pull off the road somewhere.
That's why I brought the dog for heat.
So I
It's a 2-dog night.
I said, I just pull off the road, and she just like couldn't handle it. She's like, I got all kind of beds. You're staying here. I'm like, all right. So I stayed there, and then my buddy got that room that 1 week, and then like after he left, I was going hunting. Like he already went home. He shot his deer, and I hit a deer with my Jeep, and like totally messed it up, right? So I had to get a rental car and stuff like that. So I ended up coming back to the farm there and talking. They're like, what do you need? Maybe I'll stay a couple days if you don't mind. Because she like invited me, like, you stay as long as you want. You know, it was just me and so that was like November. I ended up going home in January. But I kind of lived with them. And
did you kill one?
The last day I shot a spike because it was like, I said, I'm killing something before I go home.
Yeah, they're like, in West Virginia.
I was hunting a big 170, and I seen him. The first time I saw him, I hit him in the leg, deflected, hit a branch. The next time I seen him, I was getting down out of my tree, he was standing there. And the next time he was with a doe, and I hit a sapling like 4 times. And then one time he smelled me, so I quit hunting him. I hit 160 in January, but it was a terrible year. I was shooting for. There was a tree, and I had to either right behind shoulder, front of shoulder. So I was like trying to miss this tree, and I hit a limb, hit him in the neck. It was a terrible year, So I end up shooting a spike the last day. So I drive all the way home, right? And it's muzzleloader here in PA, and there was a big one over here where my buddy lived, and everybody was after it through gun season. I said, that deer's too small, too smart, guys. So I end up killing it with my bow like the last day of,
holy shit.
It was the 2B like extended, and he was a 160-inch deer, So I send a picture out the eye. We're like, what are you coming out here for? You got them big bucks back home? Like, no, you don't understand.
No. But this is Pennsylvania.
When I was staying with the farmer, he was harvesting corn, and he had the semis out in the field, and he would take one out to the field, get it loaded with grain, bring it back and take the empty one or take the full one and drop the empty one off. And I was like, you want me to drive the truck? He's like, can you drive that? I said, yeah, I could drive anything. I said, so he took me out to the field, which is like a half hour from the farm, and on the way, he showed me all these hunting spots, like good. I'm like, oh man. Yeah. So he dropped me off with this load of grain, this load of corn on this semi, like $6,000 worth of corn, and he's like, all right, I'll see you at the farm. And he leaves, and I'm like, I don't even remember how I got here. So I'm driving around Iowa with this semi-load of corn. I'm trying to get. I said, this ain't. I'm like, this ain't the. Yeah. I'm like, hey, but I finally I took a couple wrong turns, and I was able to get turned around. And he's like, where you got back to the farm? Where you been? I was like, just sightseeing. You know?
Just looking for deer.
So yeah, but now I've been going out there and staying with them every
awesome.
year. So I still hunt the public. I'll shoot a doe on their property or. Like I was out there this year, and I hunted the public the last day. We had a snowstorm, and the farmer, I said, if she was going out hunting. I said, if she got her tags. I said, if you want to shoot a doe, I'm going to take some meat home, because it's the last day. I said, I'm going after a buck, and then she takes a picture of these two like 140, 150 that come out, and then I got back to the farm. She's like, these come out. Showed me. I'm like. Why didn't you shoot one? You said shoot a doe, She's like, you should just go down there and shoot one. Too hard-headed. I'm going to hunt public land. Like, she got a heated hunting shack, and all these bucks coming out to the beans.
Jeez.
Like, yeah, I should,
Yeah, I should do that.
You talking about driving around like in that grain truck and stuff. Just it's, I didn't get talked about enough, I guess. Like guys like us from the Northeast, it's like, you live here, right? And we're like, this is what we're accustomed to. I mean, and Rendell, like you're maybe a little more used to it. Like you live in big deer country, but we're here all the time. And it's like, we have to drive pretty much essentially to get into that environment. And it doesn't happen a lot, right? It's during a certain time of year and sometimes, a week or two at a time.
Yeah.
Dude, there's nothing like that. Like just to have nothing on the schedule.
Oh yeah,
beers in the fridge when you get home, and just time to just be in the Midwest.
Yeah,
and I feel like I don't think that people that live there necessarily like when you live there, it's like it's easy to take for granted because you're there all the time.
Oh, I agree.
For us, just to be like in a town where you live is like this is magic.
Yeah,
I wouldn't live there necessarily, right? But to be out there a few times a year, it's like man, it's just this is this is where they're at.
I was there. I was there for a week. January 2nd to the 10th or whatever, and it's like. I couldn't get in the woods, and I had a camera guy with me, and I kind of took it easy on him, and I was just like he's like, this is hard. Sometimes I'm just getting up early. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It takes me 3 years to come here. We're
gonna wait to be in.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't wait to be here. But
do you have one guy? I know you've been putting some stuff out.
Yeah, I'm gonna put something out myself. The Johnny Stewart. I'm gonna put a YouTube. I took that guy all year, and I mean, we got 2 kills.
Just a friend? Like who's your camera guy?
He was my buddy knew him. He lives in Syracuse, New York. So he's not too far away. Harry, good guy. So he was with the Untamed last year.
Okay.
Or the previous year.
We just talked to Josh yesterday. He's gonna come on in a few weeks.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So
you friends with those guys?
I never met Josh. I've talked to him on the phone. Here
Okay.
And kind of know him, But so yeah, Harry, I got hooked up with him, and he went with me all year, and.
It's not easy to adapt to that from being like the solo guy for a while.
It is. It was a lot tougher having another guy and not being like
his lucky hat.
Oh yeah, so we were I'm about scent control, especially where we hunt here. This wind's going every way.
Mm-hmm. We were talking scent,
and he was and he loves to hunt in public, and he like that's how everybody should be hunting. So Harry, that's all he knows is hunting in public, and Zach and that they don't care about scent, but how they hunt is. If you don't care about scent, you're going to hunt a different way. And like he's like, oh man, I got to get a shower. I'm like, yeah, you got to get a So then we went to Illinois.
Yeah, it's kind of standard practice.
Yeah. And he had the long hair like Zach,
Oh, he did?
And he didn't want to always get it washed. And I talked to Zach.
You just shave it in the middle of the night.
I talked to Zach about it. I said, don't take it wrong. I said, we hunt. He said, no, I said, he thinks you're it, man. That's how every hunter should be hunting, But I hunt differently. He's like, I understand. I said, if I was hunting with you, I'd probably be doing the same thing. But
sure.
I'm at my age. This is what I want to do is how hunting. So yeah, he is.
Well, when you got hair like Zach, there is no such thing as scent control.
Yeah. So so Harry has hair like that. And as soon as I met him, I'm like,
there's gonna be a problem.
Let's get the shears out.
You just said, hey, listen, no offense, but your hair can't be longer than your dick at this point.
By October, I want to see no hair up here and some hair here.
The only thing his hair was good for, we was in West Virginia one evening hunting, and I forgot my floaters. I said, rip one of them long ass hairs out.
Give me
just
one
help
of
me.
things, huh?
I said, tie it to that limb. I said, at least it'll tell us. At least it's good for something. I told him, But
That's milkweed.
He did good. Like we had good success through early October. Then we hit a dry spell. Then it just got like, if you're not, he's not in like the mental aspect of it that I am or you guys would be if we're all like focused on our hunt.
Yeah.
He's just along for the ride, basically the back seat.
We get it.
So it is.
We took cameramen with us to North Dakota for the second time. Yeah, dude. I mean, the story I've told multiple times.
I'm not complaining about him. He was a great kid.
And there's a thing of Old Spice in there. I'm like, what the f is this? We have a whole convention about it.
Well, I mean, the hard part is like, okay, look around this table. Which one of us wants to be a cameraman for the month of November?
Yeah,
not me, dude. I won't be hunting.
Nobody.
So if you're like in tune with it and ingrained in it, like you don't want to be a cameraman during that time frame either.
Yeah, and he's new to hunting, and at first, like I said, through early October, we were seeing bucks all the time, big bucks, and I shot one, and he's like, man, every time we went out, and then we had a super dry spell through October into November, like we didn't see shit. And I'm like, then I started saying, what do you think, Harry? Where'd she go? He's like, apparently I don't know where the hell I'm going.
Isn't that fun, dude?
Welcome to the grind.
It is that dynamic I got to experience with on that North Dakota hunt that I went on this year. So I can read deer signs stuff. Like I feel fairly accomplished here in my environment and stuff. But in North Dakota, I'm like, as far as whitetails, that was my first experience. I was like, I have no idea. And so Lucas, Lucas Psycho? That's who I was hunting with.
He used to be part of White Knuckle.
Yeah, he's a native-looking dude. He's used to film with Todd Pregnance and Whitetail.
White Knuckle.
I don't know. Maybe if I saw him, but I don't.
Okay. Anyways, he just couldn't be a better guy, right? Like, he was just awesome. We really enjoyed that trip together, and he was essentially, pointing us in the right direction. He had the boat and was taking us up and down. And he, over the course of that trip, like, it was a learning experience for me, and it was fun that, like, towards the end of it, he's like, what do you think? What do you think? He's like, here's the sign, here's this sign. And I could tell he's, like, testing me because he knows. And actually, the last day is when I ended up killing that buck. And we went and we scouted 2 different spots. We went to one, and we found a giant sign, or a giant track, and we could tell sucker was going right up in this island. I was like, you got to be bedding in there. And then we went to this other spot, and there was also, heavy trails and stuff, and like a bedding area. So we had these 2 spots, and we're like, okay, the wind's going to work for probably both of these tonight. Each of us are going to hunt one. He's like, which one do you want? And I'm like, there's an element of like, I don't want to be greedy.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, but also, and I'm like trying to assess the sign and which one is actually best. And do I choose the best one or not?
Yeah.
And ultimately I chose the first one. And I said, dude, I just think if this is my last day here and if I'm going to kill one, I said, I think that's the spot I got to be in. And he's like, yeah. He's like, that's the right answer. Okay. He's like, okay. So if you're going to do that, you can't just hunt the crossing here. You gotta go in.
Yeah.
So it's fun to have that dynamic with either experienced or new and developing hunters to be able to let them read the sign and make a decision. I say, what do you think we should do?
And I don't don't know anything. We're all students, and like I always say, hey, I could learn something from now that you've been following me and you're with me. What do you think? And and I think he might have thought it was a trick question, but I'm just like,
sure.
I don't know where to go, man.
Yeah.
No.
I'm ready to pull my hair
opinions
out.
here, yeah.
Tell me something,
Dude, I had my good buddy Corey's been hunting with me for a long time. He hunts our family farm. I got so much satisfaction this year he's killed some good deer and stuff, and I've been with him. I'm always the one kind of leading the strategy. Here's where we should go, this and that. This year was the first time that he, on his own, made a decision based off of weather and stuff and time of year. He's like, I think I need to be hunting this time. And I'm like, I agree. I was out of the state. We were in Illinois. And I was like, where do you want to go? I said, here's where I kind of think these certain bucks are at. He's like, I think that stand that's where I need to be. And you got to understand, he did not grow up hunting.
Yeah.
Every bow that he's had has been bows that I gave him.
Yeah.
And he went to the spot and killed his 4-year-old buck at the end of November. And I was like, and I couldn't have been more proud that he had figured that on his own.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could tell he appreciated it just as much as like had I been there. And it's like, you did it yourself. Like that was the goal.
Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That fired me up.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, that was so exciting.
I think I get more fired up and more enjoyment out of helping other people succeed than killing something myself.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get you a camera next year. You can watch me.
I'll film you.
You can help me succeed all you want.
Yeah, maybe you'll kill something, John.
Well, I think the tough part of that is like, and obviously all of us, like, we jump states, we go over, but for a while there, it was like, I love hunting and the challenge and everything that comes with it so much that like, I also in a weird way don't want it to end. So as much as I'd be happy, like tagging out on opening day, like when I used to only hunt Pennsylvania, I think the earliest I killed a buck was probably maybe first weekend or something. And I remember killing that buck and I was like, holy shit, what do I do the rest of the season?
Yeah.
And now it's different because we jump different states, but there's still that kind of thought process in the back of my head where it's like, man, as much as I want to like succeed on that early season side, like I also don't want to like not be able to hunt, the rut in Southern Ohio or in Kentucky or wherever it is. Like, so it's a weird kind of dynamic. And a lot of people don't get it because they're like, well, man, like you want to go out there and kill something. It's like, I do, but I also don't like want it to end either.
And you want to enjoy, like I remember when I wouldn't have time to hunt because of work, I'd get out there and a buck. I'm like, no, I'm not ready to kill a deer yet. I want to hunt the couple scrape times, the first frost. Man. Like you want to experience a lot of the season. That's because we're hunters. You need as much you want to kill. And like just recently when I was in Ohio, I went up. They had that snowstorm. I run down there, and I just wanted to hunt in the snow so bad that I was kind of lack on my entrance. I made a little noise. I think I said, but I just. And I knew what I did wrong. I didn't want to take the long route, but I just wanted to hunt in the snow and hunt and sit in a tree. The season's over. It's going to warm up. It's not snow. And, that's what it's about.
And you got to be okay with eating your tag in those situations.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, that it may not work out.
Well, that goes back to the Indiana story I was telling you. That first afternoon I was on that buck right there. And that actually entered my mind. Like,
you could have shot it.
I'm here for 2 weeks. And I'm not going to get to experience true Indiana hill country because I'm about to smoke this buck in this cornfield. And I was like, checkmate. Like, I beat this buck. I'm good with it. And I let it go. And then I killed myself in 2 hours up drainages. And I was all on rock bluffs and lakes. And, oh, my God. And I was like, all right, I'm good. At the end, I was like, I went back to the corn and got on some bigger bucks than what that one was the first day. And I was like, all right, I hit my tag, but I actually got to experience
you rolled the dice,
the different terrain features
and
I
learn.
wanted to do.
And you're still learning.
Yeah, I could roll right back in there this fall, and I feel like I could kill a buck pretty quick there now that after I went through all that stuff.
It's a hard, I think, transition for people to make when it starts out of like when the goal is to kill something.
Yeah.
it's a hard transition to make, but if you can get to a place where it's like the objective is to experience the season or the location in its fullest,
yeah, for sure,
you can't lose.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that takes the pressure off of killing stuff, and it's just like you said about letting deer walk and stuff.
Yeah.
I've kind of, you know, over time, it's just, man, it's like I easily could have killed that thing. Like, how hard is it to draw back? I've been practicing my bow the whole year. It's 30 yards. I'm gonna kill it.
I was drawn on all those deer I passed. Like, I got them on video. I was like, all right, cool. See you later. Like, I'm gonna wait for them to get bigger.
My last day in Iowa, we were there a week. You know, it was kind of warm at first. Did some bow hunting. We didn't go crazy. I was visiting with Rendell and my farmer friends, and it was enjoyable. So that's a part of it too. I don't get to see them every couple of years. And then the last day in a tree, we hunted, got up early, hunted late, this and that. And the last day we sat in that tree, and it went so fast. And I'm like, I just like videoed like me sitting there. It's like, I'm going to keep this because I ain't going to be around for 3 years. And then you get done and you go back to the farm, and I got tagged soup. I drink a couple beers, and it was an awesome experience, you know?
Well, you got to think, too, if I would have shot that 140 early season, that 190 I hunted the last day would have never happened. And to be on a 190 class buck in a snow in Iowa.
Well, you could have helped your buddy out when he came out.
No, he would have still kept that in his mind for next year.
I would have gar-holed you, trust me.
It's wild when you think about that, because there was a point, I was probably just starting out of state hunts. In fact, that was probably the deer that started it. But like I would scout my balls off all September, maybe even the first 3 weeks of October. It was usually around the 22nd, 23rd of October before I even sat. And it was because I was just waiting. All the conditions lined up, and I sat, and I killed, I think it was 2 or 3 years in a row.
Nice.
First sit in PA, I killed good bucks.
Cool.
But there's also like there's a weird feeling about it, because it wasn't that I wasn't in the woods. I was scouting, but I didn't hunt for the first 3 weeks of the season, basically. Yeah. I sat on the sidelines waiting, which paid off, but also kind of took away from some of that season progression that I enjoyed as well.
I'll never do that again. I'll never sit out on stuff.
I know.
Like,
well, we talk about how fast it goes.
It
Here we
goes
are
so
sitting
fast.
February
I just want
1.
to be
it's wild.
it. Well, dude, it's just a mindset. It's an intention of like, when the season is on, it's just an appreciation for just that.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I can get in the truck and go glass, and and they've grown these racks, and it's just like, and their sign is happening. It's everything that's happening during the season is just.
Yep.
The more you can allow yourself to take it in and slow it down.
You want to slow it down, especially when you get older. It's like, man.
Well, that's why when it's over
you're
now
not
in
gonna live
January, you're
forever.
like,
yeah.
That's why
whole
we're all
year.
going to be out walking as soon as we want to, and scouting and looking, and we can't let it stop.
I'm going to take all his sheds next week after the show.
well, dude,
Take them all,
did
bro.
you know we're going to draw Iowa for the very first time?
Oh,
we,
wow.
We have
This
5
year.
points.
Nice.
Yeah.
We were chatting earlier. It's
Man.
I heard it
we're
might
not
take
going to blow
6.
up your spot. Yeah, don't
I
worry.
know, I'm just
It
messing
might.
with you. They might.
Yeah, it might.
I'll have
take
to get
6.
in there
Yeah.
early season and trash it before you get there.
Well, yeah,
Like somebody took a large dump right here.
that's a Rendell size dump.
Look
right
at the
there
size
for
of
you.
that.
Look at this track. Holy shit, what is that, a size 15?
Sasquatch.
I'll get some booner shoes made with big buck
just
tracks
start
and walk
stamping through
around.
there.
Booner
He's
shoes.
just out there rubbing trees and
Yes,
stuff.
with a climbing stick. Set
Like-
it all up.
Like it's August. They're rubbing trees out here. What's going on?
Monster scrapes.
So we're super excited. I mean, obviously for that. So we got 5 points, and we're gonna go out a few days before the Iowa Classic, the 28th and 29th, leap year February, and then we're actually gonna go to that show. So for anybody that's gonna be there, we're gonna be at that Iowa Deer Classic.
it's gonna be awesome.
We've never been.
Yep.
Sounds like it's hopping. So
Yeah,
we're
monsters, man. There's some giants there. Lots of people. It's fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
so we're excited for that. But I mean, I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I mean, I can't just pick up and be in Iowa till I kill something, but my intention is to put the time in, right?
Yeah,
When do
man.
you think you guys are going to go out? Like next year? I mean, what's your dates? Or you know what I mean?
Probably
If
late
you-
October, I would assume.
I tell you what, that year I was out there and I stayed there with the farmer, and I got there mid-October, and I felt like, I don't know, that's 10, 12 years, but on that public, like I felt like I seen most of the bigger deer moving like right around Thanksgiving, like right before Thanksgiving into Thanksgiving. Guys were out
Right before the
we're out
gun
of the
season.
woods, and because even now that I know the farmer, and they have a public parking spot, And I'll go out there and I'll talk to them. Anybody in parking? Oh, yeah, first 2 weeks, bam.
Hammer,
and you'll get
hammer.
into like the third week of November. So, yeah, there's bucks out in the field right here. Nobody hunting.
Everybody took the pressure
Does
off of
archery
it.
season start and stop in Iowa at all?
No.
It goes
No,
it runs.
it runs all the way until shotgun starts, like December 2nd.
So that's just like food for thought. There's less pressure
So
then.
it's open all
Yeah.
of November.
Yeah.
Yeah, all October, all
We
November.
typically go to Kansas the third week of November. We aren't going likely this year
I have,
because of Iowa.
That Thanksgiving week right before, that's my favorite. I've killed a lot of my booners that week.
Yeah.
It's like they long line out.
Just
They're
trying
looking-
to start to scrape
Yeah,
up
They're
the
looking
last
for the
dose.
last dose.
Your
and
Week
stuff.
of
all
or
the
week before?
like right before Thanksgiving.
I
like
told my buddies that
weekend.
they went out the first. I'm like, you're seeing resident deer that you're on a public,
Yeah.
and the big ones might not. I said, you need to go. People were like, I'm telling you, like the late teens and the 20, 23.
Yeah.
We might do some of
So, like-
both. I mean, truthfully, I'd love to go even a quick trip since we've got, essentially our Midwestern hunting this year is going to consist of Illinois and Iowa.
The 11th
We-
through the 16th of October. Lots of big bucks on camera. They move.
So that's
usually
what I'm
that
saying.
First front that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So if we could go out like mid-October, we're going to go out the 28th, 29th of February and walk and try to learn just the terrain of some of these properties we have. And then I'd love to go out in October sometime and read fresh shine and get cameras up. We can throw 8 or 10 cameras up
And
then
hunt.
plan to come back, whether it's later in October or multiple
Yeah.
times throughout November. I mean, it is what it is. Like,
Just availability.
I
to
don't
try to
know.
get there.
We're just gonna
Yeah,
black out and get behind the wheel and try to be there when
Yeah,
we
I
can.
tried to do that last week of October and then like right before Thanksgiving because all the non-resident pressure is always the first 2 weeks.
Yep.
So you catch that pre-rut, it's fire, man, everything's moving on scrapes, and then you get that tail end of the rut where big bucks are just long lining out for the last dose.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Sever.
Well, one of the biggest things that we always talk about is what our arrow setups are. And this year we're shooting the Sever Broadheads. I think we're both shooting the new 2-inch titanium broadhead. And so, we're huge proponents of expandables. And I know we've had this argument back and forth with people, but
We're right and you're wrong, and you just need to accept it.
we just want to have a giant wound that pumps out blood. That's the bottom line.
We build our arrow setups and shoot bows, to maximize penetration, and we shoot broadheads that are going to give us the best blood trails, the most hemorrhage possible. And so part of those setups is we're also shooting the Easton arrows here coming up pretty soon. So we've shot the Victory in the past, and there's all kind of great arrow shafts on the market, but like we're looking for a whole system from broadhead to arrow components to the arrow shaft itself. And the more we look at some of these Easton shafts and the components that go with them, that setup's going to be really deadly for us.
Yeah, I'm actually using the Easton traditional axis right now in my traditional setups for both my recurve and my longbow. I've got a 100-grain brass insert on those, and then obviously I'm using a fixed blade broadhead on those specific shafts.
Right on.
So, but yeah, our goal is always to be shooting the best broadhead that we think is going to be the most lethal for our setups. We've done plenty of research. We believe in the Sever Broadheads, and we hope you would check them out at Sever Broadheads as well.
If we were talking scrapes before you got here, Johnny, I was like, dude, it doesn't seem like there is, to me anyways, any more of a sure thing. If you can time up those conditions, right? If the buck is in the area, if you know where that community scrape is at, dude, a day, 2 days, whatever it is,
Yeah, that's pretty
after a
deadly.
rain, he's gonna be there.
Yeah.
He's gonna be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think they're.
That's what's pulling me out there in October. I was like, dude, if I can find those, and if I know if there's like a buck I want to shoot out there, like I'll drive out.
That's another scouting tip too that I don't really talk about. If you don't have a camera on the scrape, I actually look at the buck tracks in the scrape after a fresh rain.
Yeah.
Then you get that giant track. I'm like, okay, there's a mature buck in the area. If I run all the field edge and I don't see anything, I usually I write this off.
Yeah, I'm out.
And just keep bouncing. If you don't have camera data, you can run off tracks and scrapes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I do that all the time, man.
That's the instinctive stuff we talked about. It's just weird. Like, we do it. I don't think about it or process it. I just know
I
I really just
there.
want to simplify. Like, it doesn't have to be that hard. There's so many people are like, oh, they're just such mysterious beasts, and they are. They're amazing what they'll do, but like, you can figure them out. Like, if you go into areas and they're gonna leave sign.
Yeah, there's sign.
You're gonna be able to figure them out.
I think that's actually hurt me the last couple of years. I have too much intel from other sources in my mind.
Yep.
And I'm not keeping it simple. I'm overthinking everything. And when you overthink, you get anxiety. It takes long to process data and all this crap. So I'm like trying to go back to more just freestyle, just hunt.
That's why Billy Bob walks right in when you've overanalyzed it, and he kills them because he was just stupid aggressive and just threw every caution to the wind and got in there.
And
that's what happened.
About 30 different variables.
Wow.
Standing there like,
there is no sure thing. As much as we want to control the situation and
nothing's
and think that our there's a lot of luck in
there is.
There just is.
To get that class of buck within 30 yards of one tree in the middle of the wild is pretty damn tough.
Well, I don't you say there's a lot of luck, but I don't really believe in luck. It's like you have a better chance the more time you put in.
True.
The more you put in, the more you get out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
But
well, consistency is the indicator of a
consistent,
good
working hard.
When somebody says who's a good deer hunter, I think consistency is proof of that.
Yeah.
Not the size of deer that you kill one time.
Yeah.
Right. Which that is the.
You don't believe in luck at all?
No.
Come
no
on,
luck.
Johnny.
No, I know.
I'm
And
gonna
everybody
give
says
you a
good luck.
rabbit's-
You
I don't
think
wanna
there's
hear that.
no luck in deer hunting?
No.
I'm going to give you a rabbit's foot.
You
Break
can
a
look
leg,
at it that
Johnny.
way, but
Jeez.
I don't. Then it starts getting my mind messed up. Where like you're superstitious. I'm like, no, I don't. I just.
I'm not saying superstition.
I
I'm
wear
just
the
saying.
same
Yeah, but it's kind of like
underwear every set.
yeah.
Well, here's where the luck comes in: is deer don't do the same thing every single time.
No, you're right.
So if you narrow it down to 2 or 3 times, that's strategy. But then you got to pick a spot and you got to get lucky and have
you're
them come
right.
past.
You're right. Like I could go hunt this spot. That
You got to
spot.
get
I
lucky and
picked
have the wind
lucky
not
spot.
switch on you mid hunt.
Yeah,
too.
but I don't know. I always just.
I mean, I
leave the
used
word
to have
luck.
superstition
People start to
things.
pound
that
me.
I-
You just have- You just have confidence.
Like there used to be like I remember growing up, like if I forgot my face mask in my head immediately, I was down a rung because it's just superstition. I'm like,
Yep.
damn it, like I forgot that or forgot gloves or whatever it was. Like we all kind of had small superstitions that were just part of the routine that when it got thrown off, you're like, ugh.
I mean, you're stacking your deck with certain variables that you have knowledge of. But
You're right.
There is a percentile of luck, I think, built into it.
Dude, that luck and aggressiveness is on the same plane because I've seen a lot of people, especially in the Midwest, just, I won't say they don't know what they're doing, but they're not analyzing what I'm analyzing in terms of wind, terrain, thermals, whatever. And they're just blowing right back in there, and they're so aggressive that they'll kill the deer.
You're right. You get. I totally feel you there because it's the same with me. I'm trying to watch the wind of the thermals.
Yeah.
And like this year was going. It's like let's drop down out of here, and it's like maybe I should like.
Somebody will just blow right through there.
Yeah.
And they'll get
Shoot a deer.
so tight to the bedding area that it's almost impossible for them not to kill the deer. And you're like, what the hell? And it's because you, as aggressive as you're trying to be, you're still trying to outweigh all of these things and say cost benefit.
Yeah, and I think that's hurt me because now I'm thinking about way too many variables.
Yeah.
Instead of just
hunting.
no balls, no bugs.
Well, it was
and
the
just-
EHD thing. I think in your case, if you
smoked me,
had
man.
15 targets to go kill,
Yeah.
you would have charged right in there. And if you blew them out,
You got
screw
another
it.
one.
I go to the next
That's
one.
I mean, it did mentally screw me. Like, I was just heartbroken, like not motivated.
It's a limited resource. You didn't.
And then it depends on what your options are. Like
Yeah.
if you got, like you said, if you got 15 good bucks, then you could you can get really aggressive.
That's it.
And then you get down to one deer, then you start thinking, like you said, it's
then I
like
went
it's
to
the only one. And then you start
zero.
tiptoeing around and
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all it's going to be.
I just couldn't even find a deer to hunt.
yeah.
So it was like I'm compounding days and hours and hours and hours, no sign, can't find one to hunt. And then when I did find one,
You
it
could have
got
blow
lit-
right in
It
there.
got lit up by another guy and pushed him off the property. So that frustrated me. And then,
But
I
even
just-
that 190, like, I mean, when you
Yeah.
found him, how aggressive did you get with that deer?
oh, I went right up his butthole pretty much.
Was because
it was the last day,
end
right?
of the season.
Yeah.
Oh, it was end
I
of
don't
the
even
season.
care, man.
Okay. But if you found him in December, I don't know. I mean, it's the only shooter that you found. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I probably would have been super aggressive anyway. Screw
I mean,
it.
that's what you have to be to
I mean,
kill
it's a
some of these
190.
deer.
I mean,
And then
you're gonna
sometimes you
have to
get aggressive,
crazy.
and then you bump, and you're like, God damn,
That's
I
it.
should have went
Yeah.
up here, and I shouldn't have
Game
been in there
over.
the first day, and you know what I mean? It's definitely
Yeah, it
Well,
happens
the
to
season's
me.
life's too short in general. You got to get.
Yeah.
They could leave anyways.
you just make a decision and go. Like that 140 was bedded 40 yards away from me for 2 hours. And I sat there and just stared at that thing. I was like, should I kill this deer or not? Like for 2 hours. And then there's all kinds of factors that went through my brain. Like, if I shoot this deer, what are people going to light me up on the internet about because it's a 140 and not a booner, you know?
Well, dude,
and
that's
all
the
this
stuff that starts to
crap,
get in our
and
head,
I'm just
man.
like, good Lord. And it was young, so I just let it go, but it was cool.
I mean, if you think about it, like, and it's not to knock these guys by any means, but look at some of the giants that have been killed over the last 4 or 5 years. Very rarely are the same people who are killing those deer doing it consistently. It's like real one-off type stuff, you know, whether CJ's is legal or not, throw CJ, the Huff buck. Like, these guys aren't killing like giant bucks every year. And it, you know, part of it I think
or
is
with real bows for that matter.
Yeah, a part of it I think is because they're just walking in as super aggressive and they're killing these deer. Whether it's luck, aggressiveness, like that's the fine line.
Yeah.
There are people that are doing it consistent, but frankly, a lot of them are doing it on very well managed properties. You know, like Lee Lukoski. Lee kills giants every year, but he's killing it on the same property, which is large and managed. I'm not taking that away from him.
Property, options of properties, but unpressured property.
Yeah, and so
well, dude, when you think
I'm trying to do like the hardest thing possible, like
that's what I'm saying.
Huge bucks on public land is.
So that's
like
where I'm saying that 140 in your head, like. You trying to compare yourself to kill booners and stuff, it's like, dude, you already have all the odds and deck stack against you. Like, what are you thinking here?
Yeah.
But we're all guilty of it because of public perception a bit.
But I felt like I still won. Like I said, like even though I didn't kill the deer, I mean, I could have killed it if I wanted to.
And you were okay if you ate your tag at the end of the year.
Whatever.
There
I
you
thought
go.
I could get on bigger deer, even though EHD and stuff, but. It was still like, oh, this is awesome. Like, it was bedded there for 2 hours. I'm 40 yards
away.
Him. Yeah.
That's quite a thing, man. For like for people to mentally get past the situation where you pass like a 3 or 4 year old deer, that's quite a thing. It kind of like, once you've done it, you're like, okay.
Especially if you grew up in a non-big buck state.
Yeah.
You're like, I know what that's like now. You're like, I could have killed him. Okay. It's just...
When I first got to Iowa, I did that. I passed a big, like a 150. I passed it. And, man, it ate me
I bet it did.
up.
Yeah.
But eventually, when I started killing bigger deer, like now, it's like, oh, okay.
That's not easy, man. When you come from a not big buck state and, like, you know, especially when you lay eyes on an actual 150 versus like what you thought you were seeing as 150s back in your home state.
Dude,
you're like, oh my God, that's a giant coming at me. Like this is not an easy thing to pass up.
But then you see like a 200 on the hoof, and then you're like, oh man, holy grail, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just all in perspective. It's like getting that pressure away from killing and thinking, like I said, I still beat the buck. I still set up perfectly. He still came by me. I could have killed him. I still won, even though I don't have the grip and grin photo.
Sure.
But I still beat the buck, so it's like
that's what I'm talking about, dude. Is because after that, it's like, what do you have after the social media posts and this and that? It's like,
nothing.
Got a dead deer,
and nobody really cares at the end of the day.
Well, if you reflect, you're like, is this what I set out to do? Am I happy with how that went? Am I happy with the season?
Yeah, and as a hunter, like it's all to me, it's all in how you want your season to go.
Absolutely.
Like there was when I grew up. You know, I wanted a buck.
I want to kill a buck.
Yeah.
Then I got to the point where I killed mature deer, and then I got to the point where on public land I was passing up 140s. Like that's where I was, but that was short lived. You know, and now I'm back to like on a lot of public. Man, I'm a hunter still. I want to get back, and it's like, you know, no one can tell you how your season should be. You know, as you grow and change and evolve. You know, and then you look back to like when you were younger. I want to kill some deer, you know, and so, you know, 120, 130. So that was awesome. You know, I killed it, you know, so it's kind of like this as you go through your life, you know.
And I think I'm moving back in the phase Johnny's in. Like, I just want to have fun now.
Yeah.
I agree, man.
Like, I did the whole high pressure giant bucks, the hardest thing you can do. I was successful. I passed a lot of deer. And I think you learn that way, too, passing that, because that gives me an opportunity to get on another buck.
That's it, man.
And then pass him. And I'm like, all right, I'm starting to figure this out.
Yeah.
And then it just makes you, through knowledge, it makes you better as you get older.
I pulled a lot of my cameras in October. I had a cameraman, and I look back at my season, and you know, like my motto, scout more, hunt less, you know, and that's what I would always do. But then I'm pulling this guy around. So like times I would say, nah, I'm not feeling it. I would go move and he's in a tree, got all set up like, I would just sit here, you know, but it got to the point where, and I wasn't checking cameras as much and I was going to different states. I just want to hunt this year. I want to sit in a tree and hunt. I forgot the cameras and the cell cameras. I said, I know the deer are here. I've been hunting, you know, all my life. I know where I should be.
Yeah, just playing sign and instincts.
Yeah, just enjoying your season and going hunting. And like I said, it changes. I don't knock anything else that anybody does because I change as I grow, you know. Like maybe one day I'll be hunting private land and managing, you know, but like it's like it's just where you are in life.
Within
the
season, dude. I mean, the only limiting time frame is limiting factor is time and access. Like you can have all of those things potentially. Like if you carve out enough time and secure enough access, you can hunt mature bucks on private managed ground. You can hunt public land and have a goal set for that. Leases, you can hunt. You can go on deer drives, right? And do like you can.
A bunch.
Like I said, it's time and access. There's no reason to limit yourself within a season to one of those things. You can enjoy all of them in different capacities.
That's what I think. Where I'm looking at because I miss the simplicity of growing up and deer camp and just killing deer and enjoying camaraderie. And I wanna. So maybe I set that and have that in Pennsylvania. And then if I go to Iowa, like I'm going to try to kill a big mature buck. Like that's why I'm going out there. And if I'm at my deer camp in Kentucky, like I just want to have fun and drink bourbon and like somebody kills a 1-year-old and we celebrate and we skin it and we cook the back straps. Like I think that the nice thing because of the knowledge being out there and the ability to hunt, I mean, you just have to go. Just have to put yourself out there and go is like, you can now frame your expectations by adventure, by each experience, which is, you know, we've all probably done it. I mean, think about trying to hunt all the places we do as much as we do and just saying, I'm going to kill just a big, giant, mature bucket. You can't, it's impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's good here at this time of the year, it's also good here and here and here, and you can't be there.
West Virginia, I was allowed 3 buck this year. I felt like a game hog. Like, but it was nice. It was like I could shoot I had 2 bow and a gun tag, and I shot 2 at a bow. It's like,
man,
and that kind of is like you have the ability to I got one under my belt. Maybe I'll go for a big one.
I shot 2 in Illinois. That was my first time ever shooting more than. Well, frankly, it's my first time more than one whitetail in a season, but I shot 2 in Illinois, and I was like, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. Am I allowed
felt
to do
kind of
this?
weird.
Yeah.
Can I do this?
If you could kill 2 bow bucks early season in Iowa, it would totally change my strategy.
Absolutely.
But since I can only kill 1, I got to be really picky, and that makes it tough.
That's why the private guys are more open, right? Because they've got their landowner tag, so they can kill their 2 bucks early.
Yeah,
so
then they get a gun tag, too.
There you go. So,
dude, is there a better scenario than an Iowa landowner? Like
No.
3 tags?
Yeah, they're good.
Oh,
that's freaking nuts, man. It's crazy.
pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, I mean we'll have, this will be the first year in Illinois, we'll actually have a Illinois non-resident landowner archery and a regular non-resident. So we could kill 2 bucks in Illinois with our bow this year.
Oh, wow.
Here would be
That's cool.
the best that our season could get, and maybe you have some variables to throw in this too. We're gonna go to North Dakota early and try to kill some muleys. Be awesome to start with some success there. Ohio and Kentucky for you are the main farms, you know, back home.
Mm-hmm.
But then pretty quickly we're gonna start looking at Iowa and Illinois. Because we're going to draw Iowa this year. We've been putting for 5-6 years. And Illinois, we bought that farm last year, and I think it's got some serious potential. So at a maximum,
that's
a
great season right there.
And we're not going to try to take on more than that. We're going to intentionally not go to Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Truthfully, I don't know. Like, I'll probably prioritize Iowa over Illinois this year.
Probably.
Just because that's rare. Like, you don't, Illinois is over the tag or over the counter, and you get 2.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, because, like, this year we basically, like, we did Kansas, I did Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois. I shot a buck in Illinois, and I 8 tags everywhere else, and I had a blast doing it. Like, my youngest killed a buck opening day in Pennsylvania, which was, like, freaking crazy. Yeah. Like, we celebrated so hard. September 30th, and we hunted a lot of different bucks in Kentucky, had a blast doing it. Our Illinois trip was amazing.
Dude, I had such a great season this past
Kansas
year. I mean,
was
talk about
awesome.
and have it living it to its potential.
I saw a 180 on public land in Kansas with like just complete thrown to the wind. Like, where are we going to sit? Because we were just pushed out everywhere. I turn around and there he is. Wow. Like,
dude. Those bucks that I killed in Illinois, that all of us killed, for me, frankly, was like just cherry on top. Because like when I killed that buck in North Dakota, like that was such a
it pushed the pressure off of you immediately.
It was and it was a
does.
giant buck, and I was like, this is the pinnacle of what I could have
first
imagined.
week of
this trip.
September, and you're like,
Yeah, you're
here we
setting
go.
yourself
It was
up,
amazing,
like-
and then to
Yeah.
get to go to like this farm that we bought in Illinois and kill these two bucks. I mean, they're both mid-40s bucks,
Yeah, you
and
got on a roll.
I was just like,
It's awesome.
I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. I felt
But
super blessed
so
by this past
fast,
season.
dude.
Yeah, it does fly.
We talk about it, and we're like, first week October, we got so much and it's February 1. And we're like, what?
And like he was saying
Crazy.
about deer camps, I didn't grow up hunting, so I never really got to experience that. So this past season, I went out of my way and hurt my hunting to do I did like 5 deer camps.
Dude, it is.
And it was just totally different mentality. Like
it's so awesome.
Some guys
man.
are really serious camps. Other camps they could care less. You're just hanging out, doing whatever.
Yeah.
It's hard, man.
It was pretty fun though. It's like I never
bet.
got to experience that, and it's like a dying out thing too.
I mean, I did deer camp from the time I was 9 years old till I think the last camp we did as a family, I was probably 28 or so. I'm 39, almost 40 now. And so I find myself, mainly because my kids are 8 and 12, like trying that's where I'm at, especially if I look at 24, is like I know how impactful that was on my life. And I'm like, man, if I don't do that for my kids, I'm failing them.
Yeah.
Because like, I was grinding so hard as a kid trying to kill a deer and, sterno cans and hand warmers and stuff. And like my kids could go to a box blind with a heater and kill a buck over a food plot. And I don't like, we have fun doing it, but slowly I'm like, man, I know what turned me into the hunter I am now.
Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't that.
It wasn't that. Yep.
Yeah, the
So,
grind.
yeah.
The grind is what.
Well,
makes
dude,
you.
you're in a cool position too with your kids to like bring them into what we're doing, which is building community like with these guys right here. And like, so, as we get success under our belt, we tend to turn more towards wanting to do it with people that we care about too. So like, and over the years, there's been like, we can dream about these camps where like, can you imagine if we got X, Y, and Z together and we could go and do this thing? And we can, like, it's just a matter of making the time for that and like getting everybody on the same page. But that's for us for the next foreseeable future is like, in addition to the goals that we have for ourselves, for the deer we want to kill and stuff, it's an equal goal to try to do it with the people that we're building relationships with. And
Yeah,
stuff.
you're right. That's a big part of it. All your friends and, whether it's, social media or just like a deer camp friend, it's like, it's great to have that. And get to share, like I said, Rendell, I want to come see you in Iowa, he said, I'll come down. I don't care. I'll hunt with you. And it was,
Isn't that
like
amazing? Like, dude, in another world, it's like, the social media interaction might have been all it ever amounted to. And it's like, it's cool and it's nice that you have that support or whatever, but like, there's people that you connect with to a level where you're like, can you imagine if we actually got to go and hunt with that? I feel that way about like Mick, right? In Western Kansas, if the three of us went and hunted with Mick or like with these guys in the big woods, it's like, how cool would that be? And it's like, well, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
I think to Rendell's point, like that is, deer camp historically was family and very close friends. Like that was the deer camp you did. Even if your buddies hunted, like they went to their camp, you went to your camp. That has, disappeared for better or worse. It's disappeared. But what brings the opportunity is there's a lot of us now floating in this community who I think are looking for that, and we're out here, right? We're all out here floating. So the cool opportunity is to say, well, that's what you guys are looking for, and that's what I want to do. Like,
let's do it.
Where should we do that
get it done.
together? And now you bring in this melting pot of like how your family hunted, how you didn't grow up hunting. So how'd you get it? It's all of these different types of emotions and history and dude, the stories that would then, cause like, I enjoyed it. Right. But I heard the same stories every year at deer camp from which was cool to relive. But now I hear Johnny's stories and I hear Rendell's, like those kind of things. It's like, man, it's like that's a big opportunity for us as a deer community. So, kind of what we were talking pre-podcast is like, Jared and I are really kind of in this mission with this podcast is like, how do we make deer hunting experiences for everyone? I don't care if you hunt public.
Yeah.
I don't care if you hunt Iowa or you hunt Pennsylvania. How do we make all of our experiences as good as what we're experiencing?
Well, dude, you guys, you can feel it from like just that passion, right? Like that just acknowledgement of in the season. Like you guys know what I'm talking about. How do we make that accessible to everyone? How can somebody be that fired up in the moment? It's just like, just to feel that. It's like there's nothing like it. I live from season to season.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want people to experience that with us or in their own situation,
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're all just hunters, so.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and we all deal with different things at different we talk about wolves, we talk about public private, we talk whatever. Like we all deal with different things happening. But like I also think that we're probably as a community more accessible than we've ever been.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we're using it appropriately right now. We're using it to like it's a dick measuring contest. Hey, what'd you kill this year? What did I kill this year? Where we should be, I would rather hear, okay, cool, you killed it. Tell me the story about it.
Yeah.
Like how did it happen? What it came.
Yeah.
You don't hear that very much.
I think
anymore.
that's a big part of like a lot of my kills and the experience is like, oh, that's a good story. Or just like you said, I know when I'm with my fiance and someone hunts or I could start talking to them, you start telling stories, and she's like, so-and-so's husband hunts. You guys get along. We're over there talking deer hunt. I don't care where he hunts, what state, how many deer he kills.
Man.
And we can relate just with the hunting thread and tell stories, whether it's shooting a doe or city hunting or hunting over. It's like it's great. To
there's just a fire, dude, between deer hunters. Like, dude, I walk around my gym. I'll literally walk up to people and I'm like, "You're a deer hunter, aren't you?" Literally, I've done it tons of times, and they're like, "Yeah." and then it's like we're just best of friends at that point. It's just like you have that connection, right? Like there's a brotherhood, right? It's like Michael was onto something there.
Yeah,
and it's you can just pick those people out of a cloud and to understand like that mindset that happens during the season and what it feels like to.
When I passed those deer, that's what I thought too. I was like, damn, that would have been a great story if I would have shot that deer.
I know,
but
man.
It's still a story, so.
It is. Yeah. I mean, there is a weird.
Well, we don't care, dude. You could have, you might as well have, right?
Yeah,
it's like the story is the same after the fact. The only difference is that deer had another year to go and you create another story potentially.
Yeah, he could be a giant this year.
Could be a giant, man.
That'll be an even better story.
Yeah.
Or I can take Johnny out there and put him on one.
There you go.
He's got 3 more years to wait out there. Yeah. So it is neat. But I think that's kind of got to be the focus that we start wrapping around here, especially in the year moving ahead, is that if we look at kind of where we all sit as a community, we don't have to agree how each one of us hunts or, the way that they do it and go about it. But like, there's cool stories to hear about it. And as long as you're like, if you come out of hunting season here on February 1st and say, man, I killed one, but I had an awesome year though. That's all. That's what it should sound like. But I think if you listen close enough, there are a lot of people that are just saying they're unhappy with how the season went.
Yeah.
And that should be even if you didn't kill a buck, the last thing you should be saying is like, you're unhappy. If that's the case, there's a problem we have to fix.
Well, I think a lot of that's just social media pressure, honestly.
It is.
Like, that's a big part of the issue.
That's the measuring contest right now.
Yeah.
It's like, well, Johnny, listen, Jared killed 3 bucks this year.
You didn't kill anything.
He hammered him. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, man. Like, I bet your season sucked.
He must not know. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And
but at the end of the day,
well, and according to Johnny, there was no luck involved. So.
No.
all skill.
So I suck,
That's
Johnny.
all skill,
I'm
bitches.
sorry.
Yeah.
I just suck.
Well,
That
there you
Rendell
go.
guy,
I mean, Rendell, you obviously, even though you had a tough season, like you're
Yeah.
gonna come out of that season and say, man, like it still was hunting season. It was
Oh,
awesome,
yeah.
right? And
A lot of hunters I know that are great hunters, haven't killed a deer in
Couple
a season.
years.
the guys who are trying to kill big bucks,
That's
more than
tough.
likely end with tag soup.
Yeah.
There's a pile of tags in their hands,
And them are the guys that learn just being through the whole season and seeing it change.
and they still loved it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing that I think has to, like, that's the message that has to continue to change is like, and frankly, some of the TV stuff has really pushed that hard against us with combinations of social media to where like, man, these guys have to fill 13 episodes. If they went 13 episodes with just stories and non-killing, guess what?
Nobody's watching it.
Nobody's watching it.
Yeah, well, there's a reality too of declining access that is really hurting people's ability to like find the experience that they want, and so that that's we kind of need to be wrapping up here anyways, time wise, but that's a lot of the conversation that we have is around there's real there's real issues that are facing hunters. I think a lot of them pertain to access. People are losing places to hunt. There's always public, but the experience is what it is, right?
Yeah,
You've been dealing with that for years, and the more people that funnel in there, it's
harder it gets.
It's tougher.
Certain
and tougher.
states are better than others on the public. Yeah.
And there's also, the social media element of like, hey, there's a pressure or there's a jealousy or a comparison factor where it's like, okay, it's this or it's that. So yeah, we kind of just have to pull ourselves out of that and just have realistic expectations for what a season can be based on the access that we have and stuff. And you can always gain more. Like, it's not just like what you have is what you have. Go out and try to make something for yourself.
Yeah, it's all perspective too. Like, I got to hunt every day, and
that's right.
I got to hunt every day. Like and I live in Iowa. Like, it's, even though it's public and it can be tough, I'm still grateful that I actually have the public land to hunt, because if I didn't have public land, man, I'd be screwed.
Yeah, be screwed.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to kill a buck, you could have killed a buck this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to.
It's all in being what you think about it, perspective.
Yeah. That's and frankly, that's the vision and mindset that has to change moving forward, is that, anybody that's kind of been in this space, especially with the social media and stuff, has felt the pressure of like, well, I could have killed that buck, but man, I might take shit for it. And I remember multiple times where that's happened to me, and I eventually thought, wow, that's fucked up. Like, I should not have. The fact that I was even thinking that somebody that I don't even know was going to make a comment, and that was why I didn't shoot that deer.
Yeah, it shouldn't be in your mind at all.
Should not be in your mind.
Is it that weighs on you?
Sometimes it popped in my head here or there.
Where do you feel that pressure from? Just
everybody expects you to kill a giant. People DM me all the time. Hey, I noticed you didn't post a giant buck this year. What happened?
Really?
Yeah, all the time, man. Like, tons of messages, and then
when it could have been like, man, Rendell, like, give me a story. Like, what was something cool that happened this year? That's how it should be.
Well, that's probably comes with the territory of being known for killing giants. I bet like Rising and those guys get the same. I do. Truthfully, those guys.
Look at Winky. Winky had a really tough season, and we all, including you,
imagine that. Yeah, what's going on? What's going on?
We're like, man.
I did actually. I loved his videos, though.
They were good.
Me too.
They were honest.
Good videos, good knowledge. I learned a lot.
I couldn't help but chuckle. I'm like, you see what we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
Well, I know, like the videos. I when we filmed this year, we were at my camp down in Ohio, and I said, make sure you film everything else, because I'm not about. We don't got 6 kills.
Yeah, we're not going to put out a ton of content on kills.
It's going to be about, where's Johnny at? What's he doing? Even people he meets, goes to see Rendell. Like, make sure you got enough of that just to, that's what it's all about too for me. Yeah, you can learn some, like a lot of intros, and we go in and this and that, and don't kill. This is like every day, don't kill. But at least you might put something there that, okay, I've been in that situation. I can learn something. And then hey, John's not killing every day, but it's like,
Bo's story in Ohio of like, because he and I were texting when it was like monsooning in there, and then he had that buck come up and his muzzler didn't go off.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I was like, dude, I was just sloppy. And he's like, well, actually that screwed me out of a buck.
Yeah.
And it's like, so there's a perfect case. He didn't kill anything, but I was like, man, I get it, dude. I was in that. I was out there in that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I could kind of, I want to see somebody be successful and achieve their goal, it's fun to see people kill big bucks. But like, dude, when I am watching something, like watching a film or something like that, I want to feel something. I want like that feeling that I'm talking about during the season, like where just like it's emotional. Like I'm just like, there's ups and downs, and there's like I want to feel that when, dude. Frankly, some of that Heartland bow hunter stuff comes to mind, and they got flack early on because it was overly cinematic and stuff. But I was like, dude, I felt something while I was watching it. Like I could put myself there and like, so I really, from a content consumption standpoint, I appreciate production. You know what I mean? I wanted to do a good job of, it's not just the kill. It's like, hey, we filmed it, we killed it.
It's a story, it's a journey. I mean, I think, and maybe we kind of wrap it up. My big thing of where we sit now, like if you're a hunter listening to this in February of 24, as we kind of look forward, is, and I find myself guilty of it, is, man, we as a group are so desensitized to big bucks right now. Like, you remember how cool it was to see like a 20-inch wide 8-point hanging out of the back of a truck, and like people being like, holy shit, that was a stud. Now, dude, we see 170s on social media, whether it's kills or every freaking day. And so to the point where if Rendell calls me, he's like, yeah, I killed a booner. I'm like, cool, man. I should be like, dude, send me pictures. Like what happened? And we as a community are more desensitized than ever to big deer. And to me, that's where do we go from here? What's above that?
Yeah.
Like, what are we gonna chase? They don't get any bigger than that.
That's true.
And that's a scary thought in my mind, to where even kids are like.
You're right. Yeah. Them are the ones you got to look out for, because they're looking like everybody's shooting. I need to shoot a big buck, and it's like, you need to shoot a spike. You've seen it.
So I've seen kids shooting at 9 years old, shooting booners, and I'm like, Jesus, where does this kid go from here?
And like, even in Iowa, like, I'm nothing, dude. If you're not killing 2 hundos in Iowa, like, you're nothing.
That's
like,
a problem.
Yep. Yeah.
That's a problem. Like, should we appreciate those 200? Absolutely. But at the same time, it's like, man, those deer should be so, like, put on a platform that, like, anybody that kills a 200, we're like, damn, that is an absolute freak. Can you imagine? And now there's a bunch of them that are killing, to the point where I'm like, I don't know, but I bet it's on 2 hands the number of, like, big ass deer out there in the whitetail country that are not known. Everybody knows they exist.
You're right. No thing. The reason I stick with the public land is because I know when I was 15, 120 some inch deer where I lived was huge. You know, and then I keep that in my mind. Like, I want that. You know, to where if I was shooting 160s, 170 every year, it's like I just feel like I conquered.
Where do you go from?
Yeah,
that?
where do I go? So I think I would lose interest. So I stick with the public land and the harder hunt areas, just because I want that 100. Now it's 130, 140. It's like, oh man, you know, I'm like, I still get, you know, that excitement in it, and I feel like I'll keep it. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like
I think there's another side, like on the other side, I guess, of the score thing is, like, in a way, like, I know what you're saying. There's a desensitization, but, like, in a way, I'm kind of okay with that. Like, realizing that there's no more skill to kill a 200-inch deer than there is to kill a 160-inch deer. Like, if they're the same age class,
if he's there, he can be killed.
Yeah, essentially. And ultimately, we all kind of understand now, like, with the technology that we have, like, it just comes down to owning the land or having access to where they live.
Yeah.
There's no reason that you shouldn't be able to go out to Lakoski's farm or wherever they're at and kill them. There's no reason, right? So I think that to me sheds light on the fact that it is more about the experience, you know, and who you share it with. Ultimately, it's like, you know, so when you're saying, well, people are going to give me flack about this, it's like, I'm not, right? If you share it with us and we know what your situation is and what your goals are and stuff, like, we're going to be super happy for you because if you're happy with it.
Oh yeah. And on the other hand, when you do pass it, you still get shit anyway.
Yeah, you still get shit.
Haters are gonna hate, man.
Yeah,
exactly. It is what it is.
If you don't have haters, you're nobody. I learned that quick.
Yeah,
if you have haters, you made it.
It's that mystique of the big buck that, you know, and maybe it'll never happen again. But I kind of yearn, like, you know, that was the cool thing, getting a North American whitetail back in the day, when you see that cover buck and you're like, holy shit, man. Yeah. And now, like, I see them all the time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't
wait to get that magazine.
I worry, like, where we go from here in terms of that desensitization to the big buck is, like, you know, do we all, or does this new generation feel like if they don't kill a booner, then they suck at hunting and they quit? Like, I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of positive conversation happening. Like, I think at this table, you know, and I told you we're talking to Bo the other day, like, there's some guys that are really making a concerted effort to, you know, put an emphasis on the experience of hunting, especially whitetail hunting moving forward. A lot of good discussion is happening, and I'm optimistic about, you know, what we'll find, I think, if we keep having them.
I think we're getting better. In fact, I think we were going down a dark path maybe even 2 or 3 years ago, and I think the more conversations we have like this, the more open conversations we have, the more that people realize, like, yeah, maybe these guys aren't off the wall. Like, a deer camp sounds awesome to be together, or just going out there and having a great experience and killing whatever, 2-year-old, I don't care. Like, whatever makes you happy, and we can come back and enjoy it and drink beers and skin that thing.
Yeah, and the more that, like you said, the more people that are doing that, then that's more of the norm, and, like, that's attractive.
Yeah, to a point.
You know?
I mean, you know, I know they get a lot of shit, but I mean, the hunting public has tried to make that stuff cool again. That excitement, that camaraderie aspect of it. Sure, maybe they get shit for shedding light on certain areas. I don't think they try to do that. Yeah. Have they brought more people to public land? 100%. I don't think there's any denying of that. But it's a fine line between that and what they're doing, which is like, man, those guys have fun. They enjoy it. And so if more people, and you know, as much as I love them and I grew up with them, as more of these A-list TV guys kind of fade into the horizon and this new wave comes up that really embraces the fun, the experience, the journey, the adventure of it, we can displace that. We can get away from the monster buck era and come back to the deer camp era, which was fun.
Yeah.
Hunting was fun. I'm not saying you can't kill giant bucks, because I think you can do that, but you could also have fun doing it.
Well, and we find ourselves in a situation of like, we're going to continue to advocate for, I want everybody to be able to, if you want to kill monster bucks, I want that to be a possibility.
Sure.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right. And if you just want to, kill deer for meat, or, have a camp situation, or I want that to be a possible. I want all of those to be possible. Mm-hmm. I'll never, get mad or bash anybody for promoting hunting, because it's awesome. And like, if I want to promote it, it comes down to, we need to have conversations that hopefully will open up access and for people to be able to access the types of properties that they want to hunt and kill the kind of deer, or have the types of hunting camps that they want to have.
Yeah, for sure.
I never thought I'd say this, and Johnny will get it, but I think people have to pay attention to frickin' Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We've done it right. We still have, as much as we're barely holding on to it, we still have a very good deer camp tradition. We have great public land, and you know what? We can kill big-ass deer in the state. And if you want to just get meat, go shoot a doe. Right? But it's just, I mean,
we're running a little long here. We better cut this off.
I'm going to be at your house this fall, Johnny.
Who would have thought that 20 years ago, that I'd sit here and say, damn, out of all the states that are out there, we may be doing something right here. Yeah. From a deer hunting standpoint.
So many states are so close. Like, if they could, and we'll end on this note here. Like, dude, if Ohio would ban this baiting thing here, it would be that. Everybody could still do what they wanted. Nobody really wants to hunt over a corn pie, if they're honest about it.
Yep.
We could have that. And a lot of states have situations where it's like, if a few minor changes could really, I think, give people the long-term result or experience that they're looking for out of a deer hunt.
And frankly, they wouldn't fly to your state to do it if their state was right.
That's
one thing I thought they should do in like some of these states is take, some of this public, these smaller tracts, and just limit the amount of hunters on it.
Yeah, draw type.
Why not? Because you have a lot of land that, the state gets their money, and all these guys, maybe 3,000-4,000. I've seen it, acre piece that's primo habitat, but I won't go near because there's so many guys. They just get their money. But if it's like, hey, let's step back and like make this a lottery. And there are some areas that are at it, but so then you got your option to go hunt a public land with maybe 140-inch deer, or you got the rest of the land for what you want to do.
And
but
you'd
I
have
think
a good experience.
I think that's that's a big thing I think about, is just like putting some of this public into like with more guys.
I think you have to in the limited states like Iowa. Ohio has very limited public.
I think, Ohio's a state. I think they need to like take chunks and say, hey, we're just only letting 300 people here. You got to put in a lottery. It's like,
make a huge difference.
So if you're
guess what, dude? Not just on the public, but like if you got rid of baiting in Ohio, I know that there's a lot of guys that feel the way that we feel. The only reason we're all like at odds with it seems that way, is like everybody's so protective over their stuff. Nobody's going to let you cross their property line, is because the resource that exists on the properties are so limited, because they're so heavily sought after and hunted, and we have every tool to be able to do it. If you had a mature, a more healthy age class in Ohio, I think you would see more private landowners open up their. I certainly would. I've got 1,000 acres out there. You know how many people I would love to take? I would love. Jeremy doesn't even hunt my stuff, right? Because I don't have the deer to offer.
It's just like
I don't even have the deer to offer.
If I got 20 bags of peanut M&Ms, I'm more likely to give some to Johnny. If I only got 5 peanut M&Ms, hell no, Johnny ain't getting shit.
Right. You're not going to tell him about it.
I'm eating them. He's going to eat
That's
jerky
exactly
for a
right.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. We're all around something there. And I don't mean to put the spotlight on kind of those old A-list TV guys, but man, they really brought it out to a lot of people of how it should be. I think if more people now, especially from the digital content creation and things that we're all working on, the more people that start talking about experience and camp and camaraderie and fun, and it will catch on. It will eventually push itself through, but states are going to have to make some changes, whether that's bait, whether that's cell camera bans that allow you to monitor and lock up large tracts. I don't even have to hunt it. I can just monitor it, and if a buck shows up, I'll go hunt it. If not, no big deal. Those are the things that are limiting access right now that ultimately is throwing a big deal. Lottery system on some public areas would be great as well. It's just at some point, even with decreasing hunting numbers, we are finding ourselves in a place where there's not enough places to hunt. That's a major issue with declining numbers.
Yeah.
Well, they're hand in hand. I mean, we're losing hunting numbers.
Yeah.
Not solely because of access. There's
A
like
big
a
piece of
societal
it.
decay issue, frankly.
But think about 20 years ago, there's probably less public than there is now, and yet I never heard anybody bitch about where to hunt.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when I'm driving across from Iowa to get here. 20 years ago, it'd take me 20, 30 minutes to drive through Indianapolis, Columbus.
Yep.
Now you're in the city for a freaking hour
Just
straight
expansion.
or more. The expansion of urban is insane. It's ate up so much farmland, and that takes away a lot of hunting opportunities.
Yeah.
And that tightens up your resource, like he was saying. Guys are less willing to give you access just because of limited resource.
That old 100-acre farm is now 10 acres with custom homes on it, every one of them.
Yep.
Like it just is continuing to factor down, but the fact that our loss of hunters hasn't balanced out with access availability is what's scary. Like we still don't have enough access and we've lost a lot of hunters. Where does that line? When's that going to stop?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because technology's made that gap.
There you go. So anyways, cool. Great podcast.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you coming in and Johnny stopping down here.
hell yeah.
And if anyone's listening to this, when's this dropping, Nick? The 6th?
When's
Okay,
this gonna
so
air?
if you're listening to this, you could still stop by the ASIO booth and see Rendell at the Great American Outdoor Show. And that'll be till whatever, Sunday, the 11th or
the
something
11th.
like that.
9 days straight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, good times. He's so excited.
Yes.
Everybody come see him.
I can't wait.
But yeah, we appreciate everybody listening to episode 168 of HUNTR Podcast, and we'll catch y'all next week.
Later.
Take me